Good morning, everyone. It is now 9 o'clock a.m., and we're going to go ahead and get started. Chairwoman Lisa Cupid, and I'm glad to welcome you to today's Board of Commissioners meeting this March 12th of 2024. In lieu of an invocation today, we will have a moment of silence. That moment of silence will be followed by the pledge, which will be brought by Officer Mija Mitchell of Precinct 2. For those of you who are willing, please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may now rise for the pledge.
Would everyone please stand for the pledge to the flag? Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer. All right, the first matter of business today is to go into our presentations, and the first one will be to present the Silver Eagle Award on behalf of Cobb County Management. And I believe that will be brought by Director Limley this morning.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, and County Manager. It is my pleasure to present the annual Cobb County Silver Eagle Award. This award program, which began in 1995, recognizes a Cobb County department head who has demonstrated teamwork and outstanding leadership among the department head team throughout the year. I would like to thank Ross Cavett and Cassie Masloom for their assistance on the award committee this year as well. Now on to the award presentation. So our award for 2023 is being presented to someone whose unwavering commitment and exceptional leadership has shone brightly through the challenges of this past year. In the midst of heated discussions, he has demonstrated remarkable composure, serving as a steady guiding force for his colleagues, the Board of Commissioners, and the community alike. One of the department heads who nominated this person commented that in every meeting he attends, his presence is felt as he presents with confidence, respect, and an unparalleled depth of knowledge. Whether it is a routine project or complex initiative, he approaches each task with the same level of meticulous attention and dedication. Another department head commented that his leadership has been nothing short of exemplary, navigating through the complexities of issues with a calm and steady hand. Beyond his remarkable professionalism and expertise, his genuine passion for his work shines through in everything that he does. His dedication to serving Cobb County is truly inspiring, and his tireless efforts to ensure the success of his department reflect his deep commitment to our community. It is with great honor that I announce the winner of the 2023 Silver Eagle Award, Transportation Director Drew Ressler.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm truly truly blessed. Years ago, Faye gave me the best offer coming out of college that I had of an unpaid intern. a program that I'm pretty sure she wasn't supposed to do through HR, but incredibly blessed to have that opportunity and to work with just some wonderful people in a wonderful department, eventually to serve as district engineer to Commissioner Burrell. A lot of great projects. So thankful for this team, for my families, my wife Lauren, Rosie, David, and Chloe, my 3 kids. So thankful for them. They bring me a lot of peace and joy at home and at work. I'm just so blessed to be able to work with who I get to work with. To do transportation, something that has the potential to affect people positively every day, whether they're going to work or to school. Just so thankful for the management team, work with just some fantastic directors, department directors, agency directors, a wonderful county manager. Thank you so much to the board, to the whole team that's here today. Just so appreciative. Thank you.
That was a wonderful presentation. Our next presentation will be to provide, Our next presentation will be to provide a proclamation designating March 2024 as Procurement Month in Cobb County. For those who are here as a part of this presentation, please meet me up front.
Exactly.
All right. Whereas the public procurement profession plays a significant role in the efficiency and effectiveness of both government and business, and whereas, in addition to the purchase of goods and services, the Procurement Services Department adds value by executing, implementing, and administering contracts, developing strategic procurement strategies, and cultivating working relationships with suppliers and other departments. And whereas procurement professionals have tremendous influence on economic conditions in Cobb County, with the cumulative purchasing power exceeding $300 million annually. The Procurement Services Department in Cobb County is fully committed to providing high-caliber strategic, logistical, and operational support for all departments. And whereas the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing and the state of Georgia have proclaimed March as Procurement Month to expand awareness of the procurement professionals' role. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as Procurement Month in Cobb County to recognize the important role these professionals have in our community. This the 12th day of March 2024. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's for you. All right. Let's recognize them for their service. And would you like to share a few words, Roger?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, for taking time out to proclaim March 2024 as Procurement Month. So many jurisdictions across the United States are following suit, including the state of Georgia. And it's a great day. Thank you. A great team here for all of their hard work and efforts in buying goods and services, maximizing efficiency, transparency, and in the end, it helps to grow the local economy as well. And so thank you and happy Procurement Month.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we'll line up and take a picture, Roger. You're go in the middle so we can, proclamation, some people can balance him out on this side. All right. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for seeing you. Likewise. All right, and our final presentation will be by Commissioner Sheffield to recognize Kimberly White for her recent award, which I will let the Commissioner share. May Director White please come forward?
Yes.
And if you have any special guests with you that you want to join you, they may
Yes.
come with you.
I don't know if you're certainly welcome to. All right. Come on, let's you stay in the middle. You center, you stay in the middle. We're gonna have some people on this side to balance it out. Hey, how you doing?
Look at that.
I'm good. How are you? Good. Okay, come on. I was hugging you first. Okay. The Cobb County Board of Commissioners congratulates you for earning the prestigious 2023 Keep America Beautiful National Sue Smith Professional Leadership Award. The award recognizes an executive director of an affiliate who has exhibited outstanding support of the Keep America Beautiful mission, inspires other affiliate directors, implements innovative Keep America Beautiful programs, and provide leadership at the national level. We appreciate the high quality of work and the essential environmental renewal you help provide for our community. This, the 12th day of March, 2024. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. She said, I know you want to say a few words. I do. So listen, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody, everybody up here with me, everybody behind me. Thank y'all so much because, you know, I was recognized for this award, but really it's just a team of us. Like I really wouldn't be able to do or have won this award without all the support from like my boss and Dawn over here, who's probably gonna be shy. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Can you let us know what special guests you have with you today?
And my mama's here. and my husband's here too. Awesome. I don't know.
We are now at our public hearing tab, which will be presented by our Director of Water, Judy Jones.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, and County Manager. I'm going to go over the code amendments related to stormwater.
Okay.
So we'll start with Chapter 50, the environment. So in this chapter, we're deleting several sections of stormwater management assessment districts, maintenance of stormwater facilities, residential and commercial. What is covered in those with respect to requirements for maintenance of private stormwater infrastructure and how the county can go in and make an emergency repair if it's not being maintained, all of that is going to be moved to chapter 122, so it's being deleted out of this section. There's also some cleanup language for inspection and maintenance agreements regarding facility ownership in this chapter. Chapter 110. This chapter removes the dedication of detention ponds from the ownership acknowledgement statement on the final plat, and it also adds language requiring property owner associations to be established where there's going to be a detention pond or retention pond or other stormwater facilities like that maintained by a HOA. So the intent of these code amendments is for the county to stop accepting detention ponds and to require all HOAs to start maintaining detention ponds for new subdivisions. Chapter 122, utilities. So this chapter is proposed to be effective August 1st. And there's a lot to this chapter. It starts with definitions. Some of the key definitions are impervious surfaces, private stormwater management systems, public stormwater management systems, public water influence zone, and stormwater service fees. Also provides the purpose and policy of this division, which is to provide the equitable distribution of the cost of stormwater management services, and states that the area of impervious surface on each parcel is the most important factor influencing the cost of stormwater management services provided by the water system. This chapter also establishes a stormwater utility in the unincorporated area of Cobb County. Next, it provides a scope of responsibilities of what the water system provides related to stormwater. So it provides a general overview of those services, and then it defines the structures that are maintained by the water system, and that includes that we maintain infrastructure located in easements on residential property that are shown on subdivision final plats or have been dedicated and accepted by the county for maintenance. And we also maintain infrastructure dedicated in fee simple to and accepted by the county through the subdivision acceptance process. This provides that we may perform channel stabilization work on residential property on an open channel portion of the public water influence zone. That is a service that we do not provide today. It's a proposed new service as part of these code amendments. So, and this is the nuisance section is what was moved from Chapter 150. It requires property owners to maintain private stormwater facilities. It provides steps to take the property owner to court to get the facilities repaired if the property owner is not maintaining them. And it also provides steps for the source water system to repair if we have to step in, if after going to court, the property owner still does not maintain the systems and it's creating a nuisance, we can step in, make the repair, and then charge the property owner. The next section, 306, that is the establishment of an enterprise fund. It creates a fund that shall be used exclusively to pay for county stormwater expenses and improvements. It also provides that we can use stormwater revenue to pay off bonds, and the intention of that paragraph C is that those are bonds related to stormwater infrastructure only, not for water and sewer bonds, not for general fund bonds. So if we need to, we can beef up that language to make that clear so that paragraph can't be taken out of context. Section 311 provides service charges, rates, and fees, just general information on those. 312 provides stormwater management and miscellaneous charges and fees. So that establishes a fee based on the area of impervious surface on each parcel. It also establishes that we can charge late fees and return check fees. So 313 provides some exemptions to the stormwater fee based on impervious surface. Railroads are exempted, Public streets and airport runways are exempted, and properties with a municipal separate stormwater system permit or equivalent permit are exempted. And the intention of that is Dobbins and the Lockheed properties around Dobbins. Their stormwater system is permitted by the state. We have no jurisdiction over them. We can't go in there. We can't do anything. So that is related to that. It's not intended for like a county property that's covered under the county MS4 permit. So we may need to beef up that language to make that more clear. 314 is billing payments and delinquencies. So it says the fee will be charged on the monthly the monthly water and sewer bill. And that properties are not served by the water system. So properties that don't currently get a water and sewer bill for the water system would receive a stormwater only bill. 315 provides a means for credits. So it provides that we will create a credit manual that will give property owners the ability, if they meet certain criteria and perform certain things that are established in the credit manual, that they can apply for a reduction in their monthly fee. And then finally, 316 provides a means for appeals. So if a property owner doesn't agree with the amount of impervious surface that we have applied to that property, they can appeal that or other sections of this code and have that appeal reviewed. So that's just a brief overview. So not included in the code is the actual amount of the fee, but I know a lot of people are very interested in that. So our intention is at the next board meeting when we bring the proposed code amendments to a vote, that we would also bring the fee to a vote. So just to share with the public what the proposed fee will be is $4 per equivalent residential unit. So that is the typical house in Cobb County, which is 3,700 square feet of impervious surface. But for residential properties, we're proposing a tiered rate structure so that properties with less impervious surface get charged less and properties with more impervious surface get charged more. For residential, so we have established five tiers that would be from $2 a month up to $12 a month. And then all non-residential properties, they would be charged based on the calculations. They'd be charged on their actual square footage based on a calculation of $4 per equivalent residential unit. So that non-residential covers all properties. It covers government properties, schools, religious, nonprofit, all non-residential properties in Cobb County. And then also, the way we currently bill for stormwater is through our water and sewer fees. So when we propose to establish a stormwater fee, we'll also propose to reduce the unincorporated rate of water and sewer fees and just have one rate. So all customers would then be charged the one rate, which is now the current in-city rate. So that would also be part of our proposal at the next board meeting. So that is a brief overview of the stormwater code amendments. And then next, I believe that Sergeant Formato is going to come up and present the next section.
Thank you, Director. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. I'm Sergeant Dan Formato. I work for the Cobb County Police Department, Regulatory Services and Permits Unit. We're proposing changes to Chapter 126, specifically the Article 2 Records, Division 1, Division 2. Many of the changes are just for clarification and consolidation to update the ordinance. Such changes include removing references to the Department of Public Safety, Police, and Public Safety Department and changing that to DPS. Adding and removing OCGA references that either clarify certain criminal acts within the ordinances or are no longer needed within those ordinances. Other terms being changed for clarity. Why are we requesting this? The current record ordinances don't allow record services to cover more than one light towing zone, which is a police precinct. So currently we have 5 towing zones. The proposed changes will allow one record service to cover more than one zone. If there's insufficient, part of the reason for that is if there's insufficient applicants We wouldn't have it, the ordinance doesn't cover how to handle that currently, so this change would handle that. So if we had 4 record services apply for 5 zones, we have no way of covering that 5th zone currently. It also clarifies that permits are non-transferable by zone holders and shall only be awarded by the county. And it also ensures that the record services are investigated for safety and security purposes by the county. Section 55, we're asking for to make that make it clear that the zones are obligated to notify DPS of any kind of material events such as a change in the address and owner name, addition of anyone allowed regular unsupervised access to the lots. Because of police tows, they're required to have the background checks on them. The change to the zone holders, personnel or employees, anytime they hire somebody new, they need to notify us, or if they terminate an employee, they also need to notify us within 72 hours of that change. And if there's any damage to any property that they may be accused of or did cause, they will be required to report that to us within 48 hours. Section 56 adds the vacancy, which I spoke about briefly before. It doesn't allow us it doesn't contemplate changes in ownership or voluntary vacancies. So this will allow us to, the Department of Public Safety to appoint a current zone holder to cover a 2nd or more zones. It only addresses a suspension or revocation, so if they get suspended or revoked, it's covered, but if they just suddenly decide not to want to cover the zone anymore, there's nothing in ordinance how to deal with that currently. We wanted the vacancy, or we're asking for the vacancy to be treated like a zone revocation and allow the adjacent zones to be covered until replacement is named by the board. Risk has reviewed the contract and recommended this insurance requirement change. Basically, they want umbrella instead of excess liability insurance. The reason why we're here now is the current bids expire at the end of September of this year. So we're required by ordinance to give 6 months prior to start the bidding process and to name the replacements for the next 4-year term. And we need these, we would like these to be put in place before the next term starts, which is October 1st of this year. And that ends my
All right,
presentation.
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
We'll next hear from Attorney Debbie Blair with respect to the final code section.
Good morning, Debbie Blair with the County Attorney's Office, and I'm presenting the changes to Chapter 134 today. These changes are really just cleanup, and they only reference clubs and lodges in residential districts. In 2017, the code was changed such that a SLUP was required for a club or a lodge in a residential district, but we needed to clean up a couple of things that we missed because it was previously a permitted use. The first proposed change deals with the definition section. And again, we are removing the reference to a permitted use because a SLUP is now required, and we are changing it from club or lodge private to club or lodge non-commercial so that it conforms with the balance of the code. In section 134.37, we are adding a reference to a maximum impervious surface so that it conforms with other assembly uses throughout the code when those assembly uses are in residential districts. It was noted in the work session yesterday that I do need to remove the reference to religious facilities, so that will be removed in the second codes whenever we come back in March. And then for the changes here in each of these related sections, We are removing clubs or lodges, non-commercial, from the permitted uses, again, because a SLUP is required. Are there any questions on Chapter 134 before I go to the next slide?
Yes, we have two questions. We'll start with Commissioner Sheffield, and
Thank
then
you.
we'll go to Commissioner Burrow.
Thanks. With reference to the religious facilities, which we talked about yesterday, the point was brought up that a church does not have to qualify. But we were a little unsure or not clear about whether or not all religious facilities are considered churches. And you are going to find that out.
Yeah, and I have not had an opportunity. I apologize for that.
Okay.
As to religious churches, they are special exception uses,
Right.
and they do require that the maximum impervious for churches are 70%. So they do not require a SLUP. A SLUP is only required for the clubs and lodges.
Right.
And I will get back to you on the whether or not there are any uses that are not churches that are considered religious uses.
Okay. So this reference to religious facilities may or may not come out for the next one.
It will come out
It
for
will
sure,
come
because
out.
this section only deals with clubs and lodges. I copied and pasted, so I
Okay.
apologize for not catching that error.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Burrow?
Debbie, we also talked about the impervious surface being needs to be lower than 70%.
And that is something, again, that was, the other assembly use, a church, is 70. If the board would like it to be something lower, that's more restrictive than a church, and that is not a concern. Commissioner Gambro, you had mentioned RSL, conforming it to RSL, and that impervious is a 55% impervious. So if the board would like to consider that in the next before the next hearing, then I can make that change as well.
Yes, my ask would be to have John Peterson with zoning weigh in on that.
Okay?
Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. So today, of course, is our proposed first public hearing on the code amendments. The Planning Commission did hear the code amendments for Chapter 134, and they did recommend approval to the board. And the second hearing on the code amendments will be your next meeting, March 26th. So I'll ask that you open a public hearing on these code amendments today.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate that. With that, we will have a public hearing on the code amendments that have been discussed here this morning, and those code amendments only. Any member of the public may address those for a maximum of 3 minutes apiece, and will take an unlimited number of speakers to participate in the public hearing. With that, our public hearing is opened, and we'll take our first speaker, and just ask that you provide your name to all of us before you begin your presentation.
Good morning. I'm Jan Barton. We are astounded at the sheer audacity of the majority of Board of Commissioners surreptitiously changing county code, placing proposed draconian code changes on today's agenda without giving citizens and taxpayers an opportunity to provide feedback first. Please remove the code amendments from today's agenda until that can happen. Recent severe flooding jeopardized homes in Cobb County. The county did nothing to help the homeowners through any other funds or help with repair and damages. The county's decisions have caused these stormwater flooding issues. Developers should be required to shoulder responsibility up front when they get permits to build. The county should not allow building in flood zones and should require such things as detention and retention ponds, as well as other mitigations that other counties in the country are doing properly. Thus, we have flooding and stormwater issues and outdated infrastructures that are not being addressed. The county is going forward with this burdensome rain tax without committing these future funds properly to fix problems and planning for them. as required. We have aging infrastructure that the county is requiring homeowners to remedy. This is wrong on so many levels. Instead, your rain tax proposal potentially becomes a slush fund for further out-of-control spending and is a blank check to increase costs of water and threaten our privacy by taxing each homeowner and business based on how much impervious surface they have. This impacts everyone, including renters, as this is another fee on our water bills. The county is shirking their duty, threatening private property rights, potentially making homeowners and renters liable for a blank check for the county's alleged malfeasance. Your plans would mean that residents face forced responsibility of repairs, home liens, and property seizures. There is no accountability for the county's past and future negligence. Cancel the rain tax, remove proposed draconian code changes from the agenda, please. Stop the insanity. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take our next speaker. Good morning.
Good morning. Madam Chairwoman, Commissioners, my name is Richard Grome, and I am President of the East Cobb Civic Association. ECCA agrees in concept that it could be a positive move to create a stormwater management utility with its own funding source that cannot be cannibalized by other county general fund needs. However, the proposed amendments in Chapters 50, 110, and 122 contain several issues that ECCA recommends be looked at further. In Section 110-91, Structural Stormwater Controls, the county is proposing to decrease service levels by not accepting ownership of future detention ponds. The county is the expert in stormwater management, not the residents or businesses. Ensuring proper maintenance and upkeep through county ownership are the reasons the county went to the present system for residential subdivisions, putting retention ponds on separate lots to be deeded to the county. Eliminating this is a step back into the past. In ECCA's opinion, a stormwater management utility should, where possible, own and maintain retention ponds and other infrastructures required in the new subdivisions to ensure their proper function and overall stormwater management. ECCA proposes Section 110-91 should be deleted. Section 122 isn't ready for prime time. Taxing based on impervious surfaces in theory sounds equitable, but on closer inspection, many residents will pay twice. Residents in older subdivisions with private property stormwater detention ponds and lakes already pay for the upkeep of their stormwater facilities. And now you're proposing additional taxes to maintain retention ponds the county owns in other newer subdivisions. Thus, the residents in older subdivisions are paying twice, once through their HOA dues for their private retention ponds, and second through additional tax for county-owned retention ponds in newer subdivisions. This is not equitable and needs further study. Not all subdivisions are maintaining their private-owned stormwater management facilities. Even so, the proposed solution in Section 122-305 seems rather dictatorial and heavy-handed in its language, and where there are no subdivisions, just houses or no mandatory HOAs, ECCA foresees problems in determining which properties would be associated with any private residential stormwater facilities. Section 122-306C, ECCA recommends that language be added to Section 122-306C that any revenue bond issued that pledges stormwater management fees must directly benefit the stormwater management utilities. ECCA recommends, in summary, ECCA recommends that code amendments for Chapter 110 be deleted, that Chapters 50 and 122 be held until appropriate changes can be made in the proposals to better clarify and address the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take our next speaker.
Good morning. Donald Barr. Well, I commend you for taking up this stormwater it is a necessary thing, and the government should monitor what's going on. If you ask my neighbor to monitor if he's flooding my property, he's going to continue to do it. Over a period of time, you've let the developers do what they want, and they've done that. And people that live downstream are catching the brunt of it. There's volume, but then there's velocity. God tells you what the volume is, but by having a buffer between the property, the buffer catches some of that, and the buffer slows it down. The more you have velocity, the more damage it does. We've all seen where velocity has washed away roads, washed out bridges. Velocity is doing that damage, not volume. At some point in time, an engineer needs to keep up with some of that. And that's where the county has to use their powers to help the people downstream. Some of the things we talk about, I hope, is residences can put in things like rain gardens, where they have a creek and the rain garden can slow the velocity. Volume will stop there and some of it will be absorbed into the ground. At any point in time, the government does have a responsibility to protect all of the citizens. And we saw in 2021, the government failed. 100% failure at that time. All governments, City of Marietta, at one point, Austell was the catch-off years back and flooded the whole area. The problem is water is going to take the natural flow downhill. So we have to catch what we can upstream, and that's going to be up to you. I think you're rushing through this really, really fast. There's a lot to be added, and the little bit of time we have to get involved is not enough. But when I see a development come in and take out the buffer zone so they don't have to do anything or they want grass or whatever it is, that buffer zone was there for a reason. The trees, the pine straw, all of that provides a barrier to the properties next door. It's very important that you take your time when you do these code changes. Let the public in. We're not against what you're doing. We just need more time for you to develop a plan. Rushing these plans through.
Mr. Barth, your time's up.
Anyway, take your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next speaker.
Good morning. You guys know that I've been opposed to this stormwater, AKA rain tax from day one. And one of the reasons that I'm drastically opposed to it is because of how my property sits. And I've said this many, many times. My neighbors in back of me sit above me, and my property is below. So when the water flows straight through my property all the way out through, from my backyard to my front yard, all the way out to the ditch in the front of my house that the county has refused to come and clean, that I have to keep clean. So my thing is, what happens to me, because I'm getting their storm water, when you come out and you look at the impervious surface and you look at how you look at the lay of the land, I mean, I'll be charged for storm water that's not even my water, but it's coming from the property behind me because of how my house sits. So I know that I'm probably gonna have to pay more, you know, probably than my neighbors, because if you're measuring like that, then I'm gonna be the victim in this. But outlined in this proposed codes, what I don't like is the fact that residents will face consequences such as forced liens on their homes and possibly property seizure if they can't afford the costly repairs caused by the county's current non-existent stormwater policy, even though stormwater fees have been collected all of these years. Also, too, this, you guys call it a fee, but it's really a tax. It's going to pose a serious financial burden to homeowners, especially seniors, disabled veterans, and the disabled population as a whole. In 2023, we got a water bill increase, and I think Ms. Jones came to a meeting that we had in the South Cobb community. And I requested of her how much money was being moved from the water department to the county's general fund. And I think she said about $7 million was being moved. At that time, the board had voted to decrease the amount of funds moved from the water department to the general fund to 6%. But they also increased the water bill, I believe, by about 5%. So what you guys are doing is what you guys always say up here on the board is you're kicking the can down the road, because you decrease in one area and you increase in the other. And it's causing serious burden to senior citizens.
Your time is up.
Well, it says 6 seconds here.
That's, you're 6 seconds over, now 8 seconds over, now 9 seconds over.
We'll now hear from our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Pamela Reardon. Had to run over here. I'm poll watching. Everyone's voting today, or not really. Okay, so I am opposed to everything that this is doing and how it's written. Many things have been brought up, but it is totally unfair because it doesn't look at the science. And the science is what a couple people just alluded to. My property, half an acre, we're all half an acres where I live, but the ones on my side are higher up, the ones in the back are higher up and such. And then we have had to put in at our own expense gravel and drainage on the side. So now I'm gonna get taxed again, because that's impervious, because they're rocks, okay? But it's also a drainage system underneath. So when they do the flyover to determine, what's green and what's not green, I'm going to have to go out and paint my rocks green. And I think I'm going to go paint my driveway green, because this is crazy. This is not going to solve the problem. It's going to make the county more money. It's going to put more money in the general fund for the slush fund, because we all know that's what's happening. It's not causing. When this whole catastrophe happened a couple of years ago, mostly in East Cobb, where I live, they took, you took a problem and you didn't solve the problem. The homeowners had to pay for the problem, which was actually caused from the infrastructure, because the county has not been uptake, they haven't been, for years, they haven't been fixing the structure and the ditches in a lot of the areas. They leave it up. Now it's going to be up to the homeowners, right? Or if you have an HOA, maybe that's going to fix everything, or the retention ponds are going to be charged more and fix things when they're put in. But it's up to the developers to put in new subdivisions and have this problem taken care of. And the same thing, buffers. We need buffers. We have naturally taken down a lot of the trees around, because we all want to expand subdivisions and put in, more pervious area. And the impervious, when I saw that, I looked at that and go, okay, that's the ARC, because I used to live in Sandy Springs near the Chattahoochee. You're confined by the ARC. And thank you so much for not being independent.
Okay, we'll take our next speaker.
Good morning. My name's Craig Harfoot, and the previous speakers covered very much of what I could say. But what I will say is that you control the millage rate. Only ever since Sam Olens, he's like, oh, we didn't raise your taxes. We didn't raise the millage rate. But what did he do? He puts in fees, he puts in increases to the water system, and you all followed suit. You're all in the same vein. I mean, you know, you didn't make the developers, you didn't hold the line on the original R20 zoning, which would have not made the problem. And so after the fact, you want all the little slaves to mortgages to pay more in taxes and fees. But here's the deal. You're not honest politicians to the people that voted for you, or you would just, you're sitting on below 10 mils. You can go to 20. And, you know, you may not hold office after you do that, but what you're doing is a shell game. You're just taking money here, putting money here, and you've spent all this money on engineering, and today you even had to give Drew the Eagle Award to give him credibility, because where is most of the impervious surface? It's all the county roads. And when you dug up the ditches and put in the drains just leave to the streams. And the streams all go downhill. And then, like he said, it's velocity. And you don't have a plan. The lady that presented all this doesn't have a plan. You just want more money now. And it's got to end. You got to take responsibility. You just need to shelve all this code package, the police thing, on the towing and all. We need more time to talk about these things. I mean, you got us all on stormwater, but are you trying to set up a monopoly on the wrecker service like Brown & Brown has in Atlanta? I mean, it's like, you know, there's always been, when Atlanta went to a black administration, Brown & Brown was recruiting black. A friend of mine even said, hey, we'll pay you and you put your name on the thing so we can bid on the towing contract. So, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. And I'm still waiting for the promise of Dr. King, where we're judged by their character, not the color of our skin, not excused for the color of our skin, but what we do, and do it honestly, you know, to our people. When you didn't roll back the millage rate, when you got the free money out of the bowl housing prices, you didn't do anybody any favors.
We'll take our next speaker.
Thank you, Chairwoman Cupid, Board of Commissioners, for the opportunity to provide public comment today. My name is Joseph Santoro. I'm the Director of Policy and Government Affairs for the Council for Quality Growth. We are a non-profit trade association representing over 300 member companies that comprise of builders, developers, contractors, engineers, and financial executives with a vested interests in quality development, both in here in Cobb County, as well as the Metro Atlanta region. Just briefly at a high level, just mention that as the intensity and frequency of storms have increased in the Metro Atlanta region, stormwater management is rising as a top priority policy issue for many local governments in our region. And in 2022, the council and our membership joined a strategic partnership with the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District, as well as the Georgia Association of Water Professionals, to work towards taking collaborative action to improve the region's stormwater management practices and policies to ensure our continued quality of life. The council recognizes the need to establish a reliable and dedicated funding mechanism to address the rising costs of repairing and replacing aging stormwater infrastructure within the county. We appreciate the opportunity to engage on this as we move forward on a standalone stormwater utility. And as we all know, these conversations, in Cobb have accelerated, after the flooding events in the county back in 2021 and subsequent rain events. The council has a history of supporting stormwater utilities here in the metro region. And I think it is important to note that Cobb County currently collects stormwater funding through water and sewer billing.
Sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm hearing chatter, and it's becoming distracting as we're trying to listen. For those of you who need to carry on conversations, I would just ask that you please exit the room, and you can have that conversation and then come back into the room. But it's becoming increasingly difficult to hear the speaker.
Thank you. As I mentioned, it is an important note that Cobb County currently collects stormwater funding through water and sewer billing with customers in unincorporated Cobb. And just looking at the bigger picture of the Metro Atlanta region, over half of all the cities and counties in the 15-county metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District have a dedicated stormwater utility. And the data illustrates that a stormwater utility is a more reliable and equitable funding source than other mechanisms. The Council for Quality Growth supports Cobb County on moving towards a dedicated stormwater utility and urge the BOC that the existing stormwater fee collected is eliminated, that a meaningful credit/incentive program is implemented for developers and residents, and the fees collected are represented fairly and reasonably. We stand ready to be a resource for the Board of Commissioners as we move forward to the adoption process. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from any additional speakers.
Hello, my name is Vivian Kirby, and I'm here because I strongly oppose the rain tax that's being proposed and the code amendments that go along with it. For starters, it represents a clear violation of private property rights. A hallmark of a free democratic society is private property rights, and one of these attributes is the ability to use one's property whatever way they see fit without any government interference. And this proposed tax would cut into those private property rights, okay? There's an old saying, and there are politicians that have used it: never let a crisis go to waste. It's always an opportunity for government to gain more control over the population and extract more money from the population, and that's what this is. It's a gimmick to control homeowners, property owners, and extract more money from them, doubling down on whatever they're already being charged for water and water sewage. This is something that is already paid for in the taxes that you collect from us. So why are you doubling down and making us pay double for it when it's clearly the responsibility of the county to maintain the proper, adequate water management facilities to control flooding? And hand in hand with this, the developers should be in charge of making sure that whatever construction they do in the future, whether it be for building a new shopping mall, a church, or a school, or a new residential community, they should have the burden of ensuring that in the event of storms, that the water is drained properly or retained properly so as to not damage surrounding properties. But on the whole, I feel that this is an erosion of private property rights, and the people that are going to be hurt the most are people who live in the older communities, okay? Communities where, you have properties that are built on unlevel ground, and whoever is downstream is going to be punished for the forces of nature, okay, pounding the earth with rainwater. And it just seems ludicrous to me, the whole idea of charging people for an element of nature, rain, okay? I mean, what are we paying you for, okay? And I'm totally against your using outside consultants to come together with a plan for you to implement, okay? You should be implementing the plan yourself, which
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
which furthermore tells me that...
Ma'am, your time is up. Your 3 minutes are
Okay,
up.
we need
Ma'am, your 3
fewer
minutes are up.
people like yourselves on the board and more engineers on the county
Continue to
seat.
bully the time, ma'am.
People who
Ma'am, if you want to be heard, you need to be heard within the bounds, ma'am. We'd be much more readily able to consider your comments if you abided by the rules we have for all of our presenters. Ma'am, you will provide those. Ma'am, please, ma'am. Sir, can you please take these papers and take them over? Thank you.
Just leave it right there.
This is Susan
Excuse me, ma'am. Hold on, please. Just hold on, please.
Yes, sir.
They're up
What?
here. They're up here. She just placed them here.
Those are being served to you.
Okay.
That's a notice that's being served to you.
Okay.
And I'm here to cover...
Ma'am, before you get started, I would like for you to please state your name for the record,
My
and then
name
we'll
is
hear your
Susan.
comments. Thank you.
Susan Strevitz from here in Cobb County for many years. And I'm in opposition to this whole rainwater, this whole thing. We've lived here for over 30 years, and we had to take care of the water flow on our property ourselves. And another tax is against our rights, and it's against what you took an oath for. You took an oath to protect our personal rights, our private property, and public liberties in upholding the law of God. We have also in the Constitution that the people of this state have the inherent right of regulating the internal government, and the government is instituted for the protection, the security, and the benefit of the people. And you're at all times amenable to us. So you don't have the authority to tax us. You don't have that authority. And if you think you do, you need to show us where you constitutionally have that right to charge taxes on our private property. So I have that paperwork for you, and I want it on the record that you've been duly served. And I would encourage you to read that information and take it under consideration and make sure you're not violating the law. The Constitution is the law. And the Constitution in Article 1, Section 1, paragraph, rights of persons. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property except by the due process of law. Miranda versus Arizona, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate that. Constitution, Georgia State Constitution, Article 1, paragraph 29. The enumeration of rights herein contained as a part of the Constitution shall not be construed to deny to the people any inherent rights which they have thereto enjoyed. So stop taxing us to death and taking our property. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next speaker.
Hill Wright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to vehemently oppose the proposed code amendment that threatens the financial stability and property rights of our community. This proposed code change masquerading as a solution to stormwater management issues is nothing short of a deceptive money grab by Cobb County officials. Let us not forget the events of September 2021 when our community experienced the devastating effects of flash flooding. In the aftermath, many residents found themselves grappling with not only the physical damage, but also with the bureaucratic nightmare that ensued. Cobb County's lack of record keeping regarding the shared community asset stormwater left homeowners burdened with unexpected repair costs for the infrastructure erroneously considered private. Shockingly, instead of offering support to the affected residents, the response from the county leadership was to exploit the crisis to propose a new rain tax, shift the responsibility onto homeowners and HOAs. Chair Cupid's response to this crisis was disappointing, to say the least. Rather than marshaling resources to aid residents in need, she seized upon the opportunity to push through a rain tax disguised as a stormwater fee. Furthermore, the proposed code changes would reclassify shared community assets as private property, unfairly burdening homeowners with the upkeep of essential infrastructure without compensation. This county's negligence in holding developers accountable for runoff, ignoring its own land use plans, and overlooking stormwater requirements during building inspections only adds insult to injury. Instead of rectifying their past mistakes, the county seeks to absolve itself responsibility by codifying that it is not liable for its own negligence in the inspection process. At a time when many residents are already struggling to make ends meet, Chair Cupid callously pronounced that they can yet afford another tax, a monthly rain tax. This is unacceptable. Cobb County has a duty to its citizens to allocate funds appropriately for stormwater management, rather than resorting to additional taxes for every excuse it can find. Moreover, the proposed code changes present a concerning loophole, allowing rain tax funds to be diverted for unrelated purposes through the bonds, including financing projects unrelated to infrastructure. By shifting the responsibility of stormwater infrastructure maintenance onto homeowners and HOAs for all new infrastructure starting in May 2024, while simultaneously neglecting their own obligations of past infrastructure and while robbing stormwater dollars to spend in the general fund, Cobb County is perpetrating a grave injustice against its residents by demanding more for less. We cannot allow this money grab to proceed. We must fight. We will fight. There will be a reckoning in the community at election time should this proposal go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next speaker.
It's Thomas McFarland Jr. I'm a resident, a property owner, and a landlord. Great speeches by everybody that's done before, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel on that. I'm going to go at it in a little bit of a different perspective. I'm going to look at it at the landlord issue and the tenant issue. So I understand that this will be taxed on the utility bill. Well, if it's a tax, send it to the property owner. Don't send it to the account holder. The problem with that is that under Georgia law, the utility follows the tenant, the account holder. It does not follow the property. This is not a bill. This is a tax. So it needs to be billed accordingly if it was to be passed. Now, the tenant, we have high eviction rates right now. We're going to hit another record this year, probably 36,000 evictions filed. Obviously, those people are not paying their rent. They're not paying their water bill. Eventually, that's going to go back to the homeowner or the property owner. And then the property owner is going to have to pay that. Well, what happens in that? The landlord is going to then, in turn, start to raise their security deposit on the tenants. They're going to start doing a utility deposit that's going to be required. This is already hard times. Rents are high. Inflation is high. Food prices are high. Yet, while this county is very wealthy, it now feels a good time to inflict another tax burden upon which will impact everyone, but may be especially difficult for the lower income and the single parent households. It needs to be a separation. It does not need to be billed as a utility and then a tax. It needs to be separated. As an example, you're on a well. You do not receive the water bill. You're going to get an individual tax. It's already been shown. You're going to send it, like Douglas County does that. That'll go to the homeowner, or to the property owner. In turn, the property owner is going to, we're going to raise our rents as when the taxes go up. Taxes go up, rents go up. That puts an undue burden on our tenants that are struggling. I'm a landlord property owner. My tenants are struggling more than anybody else. It's very hard, it's very difficult. And then now we're sitting on the sheriff of Cobb County. Currently, we have a 6-month wait to exercise evictions. He is fully staffed, fully funded, yet he does not propose or allocate the resources to get that time down. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take additional speakers.
My name is Randall Wallace. Thank you, Madam Commissioner, for the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to offer a little historical context on the need for more support for our stormwater utility systems. Let me take you back to 1976, as described by my good friend and neighbor, Jim Wallace. He lived in northeast Cobb County, and at that time, Johnson Ferry was a 2-lane road with one traffic light between Shallowford and Chattahoochee River. Today, there are 4 to 6 lanes and 26 traffic lights. The nearest grocery store was 6 miles away. Today, there are 7 within 3 miles. Cattle roamed on the nearby farm. Guinea hens roamed Mayberry Road. That cow pasture is now a subdivision. The guinea hens are long gone. The Gordy property surrounding the intersection of Sandy Plains and Shallowford Road, now largely paved, was undeveloped. Cobb County, largely rural with a population of roughly 250,000, is today developed and approaching 800,000. The development has brought with it a huge increase in impervious surfaces, such as roads, parking lots, and roofs. So 40 years ago, in 1984, the commission hired David Hankerson and chartered him to come up with a proposed solution to problems caused by storm water runoff from all those impervious surfaces. A few years ago, when David retired as county manager, he noted that his biggest regret was that he could never get the commissioners to even bring up for a vote his proposal for forming a stormwater management utility. Today, many counties and cities in the metro area, including every city in Cobb County except Marietta, have established stormwater utilities. There are over 60 stormwater utilities throughout the state of Georgia, yet until now, our commissioners have refused to vote to form stormwater utility in spite of a huge backlog of unfunded projects that they have built up over the years. The fact of the matter is the water system has been collecting a fee on our water bills in order to take care of minor stormwater disasters, but lacks the funds for proactive maintenance and repair. There are 3 problems with this fee. First is based on water usage. Second, it can be diverted to other purposes. And third, it bears no relationship to the source of the stormwater runoff problems, which is impervious surfaces. Commissioner resistance to voting to create stormwater utility is largely political. Whenever a fee is proposed, the Marietta Daily Journal trumpets commissioners about to raise a rain tax, at which point citizens howl.
Sir,
Thank you,
sorry,
sir.
your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll now hear from a next speaker. This is the final call for speakers to address this matter. Not seeing any, our public hearing is closed, and would just ask Judy if you can approach, since most of our comments today were with respect to the stormwater utility. Thank you. There were a number of questions or comments that I noted from those who spoke, but before I walk through those, I'd like to give commissioners the opportunity to ask any questions or share any comments. Commissioner Burrow.
Good morning, Judy. Just for some clarification for emails and messages that I've been receiving, can we go back to the slide that shows the cities and how we're charging now, if you are or aren't in the city, or if you're on city water, and how that is impacted and how that will be charged, but also how does this fit in with the tiers? Is that based on the meter, the reading of the meters or the usage of the water, or is it strictly from the impervious?
So
how do you get placed? How do you know what tier you're in? That's based on your usage.
So for the water and for the water rates are tiered based on the usage, so based on the consumption billed by the water meter. The proposed tier rates for the stormwater fee are tiers based on the amount of impervious surface on the property.
Okay. So what if someone's had trouble with their meter? How are they read? Every month? Average?
So generally, we contract out our meter reading services currently, and our goal is for the company to read them every 28 to 32 days. Now, holidays and bad weather can impact that and extend that time.
Okay, and if someone is not currently paying stormwater because they're on another system, not Cobb County water, how will they be placed in a tier if we don't read their meter or we don't know what their usage is?
So the stormwater fees, if you would go back to the previous slide, so the stormwater fees, those tiers are based just on the amount of impervious surface on the property. So if they're not getting billed water, it doesn't matter because we look at the impervious surface on that property, and then that property owner would receive a bill just for stormwater services. Similarly, we have some properties in the county that receive a bill for just street light services because they're unincorporated Cobb and they have our street lights, but they don't get a water bill.
Okay. And then also, the liens on the property. I know you explained the bond would only be used, if we do a bond, would only be used for stormwater management.
So liens on the property, I think you're talking about the section where, if we have to go in and repair the property?
Or that, or not
or if they don't
paying
pay their bill.
Both. If they're
Okay,
not
so,
paying.
so if there is a private property owner that's not maintaining their detention pond or retention pond, and it becomes a public nuisance, so it's impacting property owners downstream, we have a process in place already to take those property owners to court. And then if the court judges that it's a nuisance, then they would tell the property owner that you have to abate the nuisance. And then if the property owner still does not abate the nuisance, it gives us the ability to go in and take care of that. So we're protecting the property owners downstream that have no control over that private facility but are being impacted by that nuisance. So the current code has a provision to create a stormwater management district where we can charge for that. So we're taking out that language, we're moving all this to 122, that would allow us, if we have to go in and maintain a private pond, that we would be able to go after that property owner to get those costs back, because it wouldn't be fair for other ratepayers to pay for that private pond. That private property owner should pay for that private pond. So there's the ability to do that. And then the other thing is, currently, if somebody does not pay their water and sewer fees and the property is sold, then during the closing, generally the closing attorney will contact us and say, hey, you know, they check with us all the time, closing attorneys, to see if there's any utility bills owed on a property when it's sold. So if they owe stormwater fees in addition to water and sewer fees at the time a property is closed to be resold, we would tell them, yes, they owe us X amount for water, X amount for sewer, X amount for stormwater. And typically those fees are paid to us at the time the property is sold if they hadn't been paid before.
Okay. And then the other thing I'd like to clarify, I think one of the speakers mentioned, the water fee now, water transfer now is at 6% from this current budget. And that's equivalent to about $15 million.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So I'd like to clarify on that. So that transfer, that 15 million, is 6% of our total revenue. Our total revenue is about $280 million. The revenue we bring in for stormwater is, we can't really calculate it because the way that our billing system is, but a rough estimate is currently $6 to $8 million. So 6% of the $6 to $8 million is less than $500,000 of stormwater revenue that's currently being transferred to the general fund.
Thank you. Commissioner Sheffield.
Judy, just to go back a little, can you share with us how the impervious surface is calculated? There was a reference earlier with respect to riprap and that being calculated, or rocks being calculated as impervious surface. Can you just provide some insight on that?
Yes, so impervious surface is calculated using aerial photography. So we utilized a private firm that has staff that can analyze aerial photography and calculate impervious. And so gravel is considered impervious surface. And whether or not riprap in a creek would show up on the aerial photography as impervious surface, I don't know. I'd have to pull some examples and see. But having the residential property in tiers, it's unlikely that riprap in a creek would push you up to the next tier, because the tier gives some, a range of impervious area for the monthly fee.
Okay. And regarding the county being reimbursed for the nuisance part, the chapter, will liens be placed on the property for those that don't reimburse the county?
So we would initially try to bill them, if they have a water bill, try to bill them through that. If we had to, we would go the lien route if legal said that we could do that, if it's a property that's not receiving a water bill.
Okay. Okay. Also, one of the speakers shared a little history on the stormwater fee, and he shared some challenges with years prior and trying to bring this before the board. Do you have any additional insight on that history that you can share for the benefit of the audience?
Certainly. So Cobb County has been looking at a stormwater fee based on impervious surface for nearly 20 years, off and on. So we originally started looking at this in the early 2000s when a lot of other local governments in Georgia were looking at that. The majority of local governments at that time paid for stormwater based on their general fund millage rate. So in the early 2000s, their local government started charging based on impervious surface. That was challenged in court, and the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that charging for stormwater services based on the amount of impervious surface on a property is a fee and not a tax. So that was the ruling by the Supreme Court. So we looked at the early 2000s, had a proposal, it never came to the board. Then around 2010, somewhere around there, we started looking at 2010, 2012, started looking at it again. We're close to bringing something to the board, and then the director at that time was told not to do it. So this is the third time that we've looked at this.
Over a 20-year process. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Richardson?
Thank you. I do have one follow-up question because it was related to the calculation on impervious surface. So I know that we also have the credit manual that's being developed. If gravel is being used to help catch or improve water flow, is that one of those things that fall within that credit manual? I can't recall.
That is not something that's currently in the draft credit manual, but it's certainly something that we can look at.
Okay, because I know it was, the idea of it is to help with reducing runoff to other properties as well. So definitely interested in that. And then I know that there's been a concern about the double taxation concept or double fee, double payment. But my understanding is that this is taking what would show up in the water usage, we would wind up reducing what shows up for that water usage, and then you would see an actual amount being billed for the stormwater utility itself. It's not like we're just tacking on an additional amount. Is that?
That is correct.
So a reduction on the water use, but an increase, or the creation of a line that shows the stormwater utility. Other question that came up from, I know that members of my community are very interested in understanding, is the calculation around HOA properties, tennis courts, et cetera. So obviously they're contributing for their own individual home, but also from the HOA perspective, how is that calculated?
So the HOA property, the impervious on that property would be calculated, and that property would be charged just like any other property.
Okay. And that is, I'm saying, is it using the commercial calculation, or is it using a tiered calculation?
Yes, the commercial calculation. So we consider HOA property to be a commercial property. So like as far as their water and sewer, they're charged, if it's like a swimming pool or a facility that uses water, they're charged our commercial rate.
Okay. And then I know that there were also some special accommodations or considerations around reducing water flow with that as well with the credit manual. So I know that there will be a lot of people interested in seeing that information as well, just to circulate. And then there was a question here, so related to the code language around new development and new development requiring a new stormwater management plan. So a question came up that what if I have a parcel and I have some type of renovation or some type of change to it, or a parcel adjacent goes through a major change through a new stormwater management program, would I then be pulled into that HOA because a part of that detention pond or retention pond falls on my property?
So no, the stormwater management plan that's required, that's been in the code for a couple of years, several years. That's required by the Metro Water Planning District. And so when we look at what properties are served by a detention pond, we are looking at when that original development came in, what properties were proposed for that development, and the detention was provided for those specific properties on that plan.
Okay. And it's only looking forward then, it's not looking back, because people are wondering, for the older subdivisions, what is the impact going to be in maintaining their detention ponds and retention ponds that they may have a portion of their property be occupied by that they don't currently have anything to do with.
So, property owners, if they have a private detention pond, they are required to maintain those now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this is more of like a portion of it falls on their property, not necessarily that they created one or maintained one, or there's another entity that's maintaining it, but it happens to be a little bit on their property. So there were some curiosities there. And I know we talked about the bond question ad nauseum. Those were some of the main ones that came up in my conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gambrill?
And just to kind of piggyback off you, Commissioner Richardson, as far as private ponds, and I know, Judy, we had a little bit of a conversation. A lot of times when we do rezonings, the detention ponds that are put in the new developments drain into a private pond to then release the water. And again, that's where that private pond owner doesn't have the right to deny an upstream property owner from draining to their private pond, yet they are responsible for it when the property upstream damages the pond. And I have several examples in my district that I could use. Just a couple questions. I found it interesting that the gentleman from the Council for Quality Growth said that over half the county and cities have a stormwater utility fee, yet our stormwater is continually getting worse. So while we're collecting this fee and it's supposed to be doing these things, it's obviously not achieving the overall goal. And is that because of all of these entities that have enacted this are not working as one? So that's just a general comment question. The other question I had was the Georgia law that the utility is supposed to follow the tenant. Is our code in conflict with that? I guess that would be a question for legal to look for me, please. And then also on the chart that we have in front of me, the math is wrong. The example down below where it says 20,000 divided by 37 times 4, that should actually be 2162 per month, not 3162 per month. But going back to, I think, what the folks are saying, because using these charts and saying, okay, yeah, my water and my waste is going to be reduced on my typical bill, that would be about $1.20 a month that I would see in reduction. However, using the calculation here, my monthly bill would be going up to $21.62, and I think that's the bigger thing of what people are saying. So Commissioner Richardson, just for transparency, said we have that much impervious. No, we are actually on a 10,000 square foot lot, but I'm not sure we're going to have 3,700 square feet of impervious, but we're an OSC, which pushes the upper limits, which means we're going to be about 3,500 square feet. So I just thought I'd use this as a close example because it's based on percentages. So it would be pretty close because we are actually not an OSC, but we are a PRD subdivision, which is the now OSC. And then also my other question for legal is on impervious surface. Because in our zoning code several years ago, I believe we changed to allow gravel to be considered an impervious surface. And then we also allow developers to put in impervious pavers to help reduce their impervious surface calculations. How is that section of the code going to potentially conflict with this new proposed code? And I can talk about that more with you outside.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. I want to thank everyone that came here and provided comments with respect to our code amendments. And I will touch on some things that I didn't hear directly touched on. Just want to affirm that the language with respect to revenue bonds would be directly related to stormwater infrastructure, and it would not go towards the general fund or any other general fund obligations.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. There was concern about the detention pond, and that has come up in some of the commissioner comments. Today, is the county providing service or maintenance for all detention ponds that are on residential property?
So we do not. So when a subdivision is built, the developer has the option currently to dedicate the pond to the county or to dedicate the pond to the subdivision HOA. So at this point, about 2/3 of them are being dedicated to the HOA, and only about 1/3 of them are being dedicated to the county.
Okay, this is before we can consider putting the utility into play.
Correct. Yes.
And then if it were adopted, how would that change things moving forward?
So in the proposed code amendments, the county would stop accepting detention ponds, and so all subdivision detention ponds would be transferred to the HOA.
And the third of detention ponds today that are being maintained by the county, will they continue to be maintained?
Those would be continue to be maintained by the county.
All right. There was a question if the stormwater utility should cover detention ponds. Is that something that could be considered? And if so, what would that do to the fee that's been listed here in the chart for water and sewer rates?
So we could continue with accepting the ponds that the developers want to dedicate to us. We would have to, the rate we have now proposed would be okay for now, but as we accepted more and more ponds, we would likely have to increase that rate. The credit manual that's proposed will provide a reduction in fees for subdivisions who maintain their own ponds and then provide the documentation that their private pond is being maintained.
Okay. So that credit manual is going to be pretty important to see how communities and individual property owners can be saving towards that utility. There were questions with respect to how this is impacting renters versus property owners. Can you speak towards those that may reside in a multifamily property and how they would be impacted?
So for properties that have renters, if they're paying a water bill to us, either directly or through, if they're in an apartment complex and the complex is paying us and then collecting from the property owner, they're already paying some stormwater fees based on their water and sewer rates if they're in an unincorporated Cobb.
Today?
Today.
Right. If this were to be adopted, would that change?
So that would change is just that it would be broken out as a separate fee, and the charge would be higher than what it is today, most likely, it depends on how much water is used. So for like an apartment complex, it would really depend on how big it is, how much impervious surface they have versus how much water they use. So
Okay.
it would be a case-by-case basis on if they're paying more or less under the new rate structure.
Okay. I'm going to flesh that out with you a little bit more offline, just so I can be certain. But for those of you who may not be aware, our residents are currently paying for stormwater. You're paying for it now. You're paying for it based on your water consumption, meaning that the rate that you're paying for stormwater is based on how much you drink instead of how much your property may be contributing towards stormwater, which we found to be unrelated to your property's impact on stormwater. And thus, we found this to be a more equitable way to charge, that even a stormwater utility could be set up today just to separate that cost out, so you're no longer paying for stormwater based on water consumption. And that is going to be the commensurate decrease in the water fee that you're paying, is that you're no longer paying again, for stormwater based on how much water you drink, which is unrelated. Excuse me, I'm just going through my notes, Judy. There's some things that I circled. There's some questions in regards to people who may have to pay more if they live downstream versus having to pay less if you live upstream. Is there a differentiation based on topography?
No, there's not.
Okay. Bear with me, Judy. There are questions with respect to developers having to cover their share or their impact on stormwater. Can you talk about what responsibilities a developer has to cover stormwater costs as they're developing?
So the developer is required to build the infrastructure, the stormwater infrastructure for the subdivision, and they have to meet certain requirements as far as providing detention or retention of the stormwater runoff from that development. So all of that is currently in code.
Okay.
I would like to point out that our development standards, our stream buffers are more stringent than most jurisdictions in the Atlanta area, and that because of our policies and programs that we have in place, we have actually earned our properties in Cobb County a 15% discount on flood insurance. That's an increase from 10%. So we were actually just re-rated through a program that's a voluntary program that we go through with the National Flood Insurance Program, and we were able to get that discount increase from 10% to 15% based on the things that we do in Cobb.
So you're saying right now our residents are enjoying that discount because of our buffer?
It goes into effect, the increase from 10 to 15% goes into effect April the 1st.
Of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I also would like to point out that we provide a lot more services, stormwater services, than most local governments in Georgia.
Okay.
Stormwater utilities, a lot of them utilize the money to fund what's in the right-of-way. There are a lot of local governments that do not touch any pipes outside the right-of-way. We are the only local government that I'm aware of that currently accepts detention ponds at all. So we already do a lot more as providing services with the little amount of money that we have. We can't keep providing those services and keep up with the number of pipes that continue to fail and maintaining those detention ponds. We've never properly funded detention pond maintenance, even though we agreed to accept ownership of detention ponds.
How have we been paying for maintenance of stormwater facilities?
So we pay for it through the revenue that we bring in, but we have a lot of backlog of work orders. We have a lot of backlog of sinkholes, about 100 sinkholes backlog. We have detention ponds that haven't been maintained at all, that are overgrown, that we really need to get out and clear out and then mow on a regular basis that we're not doing.
Okay. And would having the utility enable you to better respond to those?
So having additional funding would help us respond to those.
Okay.
We could increase our rates as they are today and make the difference between our in-city rates and unincorporated rates a bigger gap.
Okay.
Increase those rates and we could provide funding that way. Or we could provide funding through a separate fee. A separate fee based on impervious allows us to take that money, put it in a pot, and guarantee that that money is only used for stormwater. And it makes sure that the property's impact on our stormwater system pays the same as an adjacent property that has the same impact versus now, if one property owner waters more during the spring and summer because they have a beautiful garden, they're paying more for stormwater than their neighbor who doesn't water as much.
Okay. That brings me to another point. If this code were to pass, we are just adopting the framework for a stormwater utility, or are we adopting a stormwater rate that would be put in place?
So just the code adopts the framework for a stormwater utility. Our intention is to also bring an agenda item for the board to approve the rate to be effective August 1st, 2024.
And I presume from the community conversations and talking to commissioners, then we'll determine what that appropriate rate is, if we just want something equivalent to what people are paying today, or do we want to cover more services in the future?
That is correct.
Okay. I believe those are all of the questions that I've had. I know you've been working for the county for some time, and you've seen us go through multiple iterations of this. I want to thank you and your team for all of the work that you've done for this most recent iteration. This has been how long have we taken? A several month, if not a year process?
We've been working on this for 4 years.
Yeah. And it's come and gone multiple times. And so for those members of the public who may think that this is something that's been speedily considered, I hope that that historical context has let you know how much time and thought have been put into this by our engineering professionals that are here with the county addressing your stormwater needs every day. That does not mean, however, your observations are not important to us. There are commissioners who will be having town hall meetings. We encourage you to please attend those. And you'll be able to hear more directly from our stormwater department, and we'll also be able to hear from you again with respect to the concerns that you may have. It is our desire that this utility will put us in a better position to address the stormwater burden that we are all feeling every time it rains in the county. And this is something that we cannot overlook and maintain as the status quo. With the increasing impact that every rain event is having here in our county. This is something by way of each of us living here that we all have contributed to in some way. And hopefully we'll have a more robust way of being able to address the stormwater needs of our county in the future. We have one more comment. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted, since you brought up the rate that we'll be looking at, just for transparency's sake, we're looking at something, if it's an equivalent replacement, I believe it was $2.16.
$2.16, $2.18, something like that, yes.
Okay, and then up to $5. And so that's another thing that people should be looking at for that range of services that we could accommodate. So equivalent, which is what you're paying today, $2.16 or 18 cents, and then the range of services that would be additional. So that feedback is also important. Thank you.
Yeah, are there any other final comments with respect to the code amendment package? Okay, thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Before we go on with our agenda, let's take a 5-minute break, please. Thank you. It is now 7 minutes past. Let's go ahead and resume. For those of you who are in the audience, if you'd like to continue your conversations, you may do so out in the hallway. For our commissioners, we'll go ahead and resume our Board of Commissioners meeting. Again, this March 12th of 2024. We are now at the public comment portion of our meeting.
Thank you, Chair. As the board provides the podium for public comment, it's appropriate to review the related meeting rules. Please state your name and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization. All comments should be addressed through the chair. Public comment is not a dialogue with the board, but an opportunity for speakers to provide their comments to the board. The comments should not be impertinent, derogatory, offensive, or slanderous. To that end, the board encourages, regardless of the topic, for the audience to be respectful and courteous to the speakers. And for everyone attending this meeting should give the others the right to both listen and to be heard by treating each other with civility. Statements made during the public comments portion do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the board or the administration of Cobb County government. There is a timer on the podium to keep track of your 5 minutes. With that being said, the first speaker is Jan Barton.
Hello again, I'm Jan Barton, and I'm here to talk about an item that is not on today's agenda. It was on a previous agenda, and we appreciate you tabling it for further discussion. It is the Lower Roswell Road project. We strongly oppose that. The majority of the community and businesses strongly oppose it. It threatens businesses. This project will harm local businesses, potentially forcing closures due to property acquisition and raised medians, limiting customer access. It creates permanent bottlenecks. The design guarantees ongoing traffic congestion, trapping commuters and harming the local economy. It will be a lengthy construction, and we will have to endure over 2 years of disruptive construction impacting nearly 40,000 daily commuters and jeopardizing businesses. It creates residential risks, increased traffic through neighborhoods, endangers children and pets as people try to avoid the area. It is a misplaced priority. There are more critical intersections in Cobb that demand attention. This project is not necessary and lacks proper safety justification. We are here today to officially object to the alleged misrepresentation of facts being done by the hired outside consultant doing so-called community outreach with businesses in the area. Contrary to what the county is saying, these businesses are strongly opposed to this project. We ask that the county and the paid consultants stop misleading the community immediately. And we provided a list of signed business owners signing their objections. We gave 31 today, and we gave it to the clerk. We have more that we'll pick up soon. One business owner expressed it this way: choosing between the county's 2 bad choices presented was like being sentenced to death by either lethal injection or hanging. Which would you prefer? Another business owner stated that this bad design will create worse safety hazards, turning businesses' parking lots into U-turn areas and endangering everyone around, possibly even having large trucks straddle the unnecessary median to make their prohibitive left turn. I asked the clerk, as I said, to add to the record today signed documents from 31 businesses. Unfortunately, business owners could not be here today. They are working, trying to feed their families while you make plans to destroy their livelihoods with this project. The majority of citizens and businesses are opposed to this dangerous, harmful Lower Roswell Road project, 2011 SPLOST project that was denied by previous commissioners because it's so bad. It was not completed by 2021, as law indicates, and we ask that the county and the consultants stop misrepresenting facts and permanently remove the project from any future agendas. No to the Lower Roswell Road project. No to the rain tax. No to Chair Cupid's plan to attack our First Amendment rights upcoming in the next meeting, we understand, by changing our public comments again. No to the 30-year transit tax planned, and no home rule map that disenfranchises voters and candidates. Thank you.
The next public speaker is Hill Wright.
Hill Wright, members of the board and the audience. Today I stand before you with a heavy heart, witnessing a tragic dance between leadership and what can only be described as dictatorship in disguise. A true leader doesn't vanquish into the shadow at the first glint of accountability like a startled bug fleeing a switched-on light, nor do they play the divisive game of conquer and divide or hoard information like a squirrel hoards nuts for the winter. Genuine leadership isn't about lining one's budget while ignoring the struggles of the very people who put them in power. It's about serving with integrity and empathy, not flaunting arrogance and greed like badges of honor. Let's talk about criticism for a moment. A real leader doesn't crumble under it. They embrace it like a warm hug from a brutally honest friend. And if they can't handle it, well, they should have the decency to step aside and let someone that can have a shot. Last week I had the pleasure, or perhaps displeasure, of witnessing a spectacle that would put any soap opera to shame. A business owner boldly rejected proposals from the county transportation department, claiming they were more likely to endanger the public than safeguard them. Yet, the next day, the same staff was spinning tales to another business owner and other business owners, claiming that those business owners voiced support for this unneeded project. If you have to resort to fibs to sell your plan, folks, it's time to rethink your plan, not the truth. Commissioner Richardson had the good sense to table this circus act of a project, citing the need to leave it to the professionals. But let's be clear, professionals should know better than play fast and loose with the truth. Messing around like that could earn them a one-way ticket to professional purgatory, courtesy of the State of Georgia Code of Professional Conduct. But speaking of deja vu, in August of 2021, Chair Cupid attempted to put a muzzle on public speaking. That's one thing everybody agreed should be left well enough alone. Yet here we are again in the midst of an election year with a convenient proposal to increase speaking slots for board-friendly faces such as county staff members, while simultaneously clipping the wings of public commentary and audio-visual presentation. This, my friends, is dictatorship disguised as leadership. It's not going to go well. Using shame and retribution towards speakers as tools of the trade, please. That's not leadership. It's a coward's way out. It's slap in the face of the very people who put you in that seat. It's time for some real soul searching among some of the esteemed board members. The refusal to share information and the wielding of vendettas for the dais are not signs of leadership, but a symptom of a leadership crisis. Our county deserves better. Our people demand better. So I'll call upon the chair to extend a genuine apology to Commissioner Gambrill and the residents of District 1 for these egregious transgressions. It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs when our leadership falls so far from grace. The behavior is unworthy of Cobb County, unworthy of our nation, and unworthy of any local or national leader. In conclusion, let us remember that leadership's not a right to abuse, it's a privilege. And with that privilege comes a hefty responsibility to uphold the values of integrity, humility, and genuine commitment to the well-being of those we serve. Anything less is betrayal of trust and bestowed upon us by the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Donald Barth.
Good morning, Donald Barth. It's always a pleasure to get up here and address you, and I'm going to call you the ladies because you are. One of the things I'd like to mention is we got the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good this week is the public safety is going to hold another one of their seminars out at the public training. How cool is it to meet our public safety in general? They work with you, they get involved with you. It's a great thing. Another thing, today we had a public hearing. Some people didn't know what it was about. They call it the tax or versus the fee, you know. But we had a public hearing. You listened to what we had to say. The bad. We're divided in Cobb County. We're divided by a lawful map and an awful map. You know what I mean by that? Lawful means the state of Georgia put in a constitutionally protected map. An awful map is where a couple of you get together and you conspire to do what you can to control an election as part of the bad. I went to sign up this week. I was denied. I was denied a right. By whom? Nobody would explain. Let's get to the awful. There is a board of commissioners. You're set over here, you have a certain standard to work by. There is a board of election. They're supposed to be a total separate entity. They are the board of election. If the board of commissioners can control that by putting in their college roommates or anything else to control an election, what the heck is wrong with America? When we get down to one of the candidates running, he was part of designing the map, which keeps others out. Is that not communism as its best? I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what anybody in the legal profession that's standing there with a lawful license is thinking. Because if you're thinking that you can do what you want, you're wrong. I am asking the state to come back with punitive actions like taking anybody with a law license that interfered with an election. I want it taken away. That's simple. You don't deserve to be a law license. You don't deserve it. If you don't understand the law, go back to college. You want to be a dictator? Carry your butt to Russia. Get out of Cobb County with this partisan crap. I don't play partisan with you. I don't drink blue Kool-Aid. I don't drink red Kool-Aid. I'm standing before you because you have legitimately gone over the edge trying to keep people out. You want to redesign the speaker's platform. How many of you got lined up over there? Not too many. I go back to when Mike Boyce was there, the big smiling face, big smiling man. He was welcoming to all. How about you? Do you feel like you welcome all? Why are we in a position where we didn't have anybody to say the prayer in the month of Ramadan, in the weeks? Why are we not here with all the churches in Cobb County? Why is somebody not up here offering a word of God? I think we know why. We're getting into an ungodly government. This is being done intentionally. You're dividing these people. We don't need to be divided. We can get divided all day long. Biden and Trump are doing a great job. Why don't you head up there? You'd be perfect. You could go up there and do your thing, divide America further, but you're not going to divide the county. We're going to come together and we're going to find a solution to these problems. You are not going to be a dictator in Cobb County. I promise you that.
Mr. Barth, your time is up.
Thank you.
The next public speaker is Denny Wilson.
Thank you.
Good morning, Danny Wilson. That's a tough act to follow. So I think I'm going to change the tone a little bit this morning. I want to tell you a story, but it relates to what my public comment would be about. I have a 5-year-old grandson. His name is Cooper. And during winter break, he came over to the house and for me to babysit him for a couple of days. So I had just cleaned out my refrigerator the night before. And he goes to the refrigerator to get some milk, and he opens it up, and he looks, and they call me Nene. So he goes, Nene, you have no food. And I said, well, Cooper, I cleaned the refrigerator out last night. I'm going to the grocery store to get food. And so I guess that really didn't sit well with him. So about a couple of hours later, he came back again. Well, Nene, maybe we need to go get the food now, because, you know, I don't want you to be hungry. You have no food. So I said, Cooper, I'm going to go to the grocery store when you leave. We're going to get some food. So when his dad picked him up and they were on the ride home, he says to his dad, he says, Dad, I think we need to turn around and go back to the grocery store. We need to get Nene some food because she doesn't have any and I don't want her to be hungry. So my son says, no, Cooper, she's going to get some food. So then he gets home, he tells his mom the same thing. And he says, Mom, I think we need to go get Nene food. Nene will die if she's hungry. She needs some food. And so my daughter-in-law tells him, says, Cooper, Nene has food. Nene can buy her own food. And he still didn't want to hear that. So finally, he says to my son and my daughter-in-law, he says, well, I know why Nene doesn't have any food. And they went, why? And he said, because she doesn't have any money. So they said, well, what makes you think she doesn't have any money? And he says, because she hadn't bought me a toy in 3 weeks. Okay, so, and I say that because, you know, I have money to buy food, of course, but there are seniors in Cobb County that do not. I mean, there are seniors in particularly my area of town that, you know, they're breaking pills in half in order to have a 30-day supply because they can only buy a 15-day supply. I talked to a senior last week who had to have her whole yard dug up. She's unseptic. Her water line broke, and she had to have somebody come out and dig out her entire yard all the way from her home out to the county main to get the water line repaired. And, you know, the first thing out of her mouth was, well, what about this, you know, this stormwater fee that they're getting ready to charge? You know, I don't even know if I will be able to afford it. I mean, you guys say $5, $8, $10, $12, but that actually can be the difference between somebody eating and somebody not eating. That could be the difference between somebody paying for their medicine and somebody not paying for their medicine. I mean, so to say that that's such, to say it, and it sounds like you think that it's such a small amount. It is not a small amount to senior citizens who some of them get less than $1,000 a month. And there are a lot of seniors out there who only get $1,000 a month. So when you guys start implementing these taxes, because since this board has been in place, and I've said this before, it's been one tax after another. I mean, the assessment value last year almost drove people crazy. And the only thing that saved a lot of senior citizens was the school exemption, you know, that we get from the property tax bill. Had it not been for that, probably a lot of seniors would have had to get up and leave their homes. So, you know, when you guys decide to start implementing these taxes, you guys need to think about it. You're going to grow old one day, too. And you're going to need to have assistance to do whatever you need to do as far as paying bills, buy groceries, and you know the price of groceries, that price is not coming down. And then gas just went back up last week. So I'm just telling you, take into consideration the burdens that you're putting on households when you keep coming and you just keep coming and keep coming with these taxes. I mean, something's got to change. And whether it's the board or whether it's the tax, but something has got to change. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mindy Seeger.
morning, Chairwoman Board. First, I want to start off by saying Happy Women's History Month. Always a pleasure to celebrate women, and we've got some phenomenal women serving in the community and on this board and in this room for Cobb County. Specifically, I recently attended the League of Women Voters, an event hosted by the League of Women Voters, the AKA sorority, and the Newcomers Club, the 16th Annual Women's History Day celebration. And this year, they focused on women's and first responder roles. And it was great to hear from a panel from Cobb County's own Melissa Arterio from E911, who I know is in the room, Cobb Sheriff Chief Gina Hawkins, Officer Jess, Leanne Schultz, who's another E911 staff dispatcher trainer. And it was a wonderful event to hear from those ladies and hear about some of the excellence that we have right here in Cobb County in those first responder roles, and also the expansion and the importance of including E911 in that first responder category. So I just want to celebrate those ladies that are here in the room today. Some of them are here in the room, and it was wonderful to hear from them at this event. I do have an issue of concern that I would like a little bit of discussion around. It's on the consent agenda item number 28, which relates to the amendments to the BOC rules, agenda, public participation, adherence to agenda, appendix to parliamentary definitions for the next, starting at the next meeting. I would like to expand the discussions on this because as I read it in the agenda, unless I speak county code, I don't know what those mean. And I think a lot of the public may not. So if we could have a little bit of an expanded discussion about that for the public benefit so we understand what those proposed changes are, especially as it pertains to public comments such as this one and the interactions between the public and the board. I appreciate any efforts to make these meetings more of a cooperative effort between the public, the board, and the county staff. And I hope that that's the intention and the heart of the board. I believe that to be true, but would like a little bit more information on that if we can. And I'm going to save us 2 minutes and 55 seconds by cutting it short today. I just wanted to offer that and ask for some additional explanation, and then also again, just happy Women's History Month. Thank you.
The next speaker is Shirley Stone.
Good morning, Madam Chair and County Commissioners, and a special directive to Commissioner Gabriel. My name is Shirley Stone, and I'm coming to you all to bring and implement a program into Cobb County as a nonprofit 501c3. And what we're looking to do is bring this program in to help those who are in transition. I'm a 501c3 that came out of Pensacola. That is our origin, and we are moving into the state of Georgia. And what we do is we're bringing in a program called the Hotel Homestay Program. This program will help people that are on the streets be able to get suitable housing within hotels that are working with us to be able to offer them charitable rooms. We're currently working with D.A. Brody, Don Davis, who is the Austell, I believe he's the councilman for the task force. I'm looking to bring in other task force from other cities within Cobb County. And we are a 120-day program that transitions from the hotel to transitional housing. We have contractors are all within Georgia that are willing to help us do transitional homes. So we stabilize them within that first 120 days, then we have to move them out into transitional homes. I'm coming to the county commissioners because the best way to have this program funded is through your discretionary funds. When we did this in Pensacola, it worked very well. I was asked to come here by President Biden and to present this to Georgia. I'm looking forward to working with District 1, which I believe is Commissioner Gambriel. And this is where we want to start it and then expand to other districts as well as to other counties, because there are plenty of hotels willing to work with us. So I hope what I'm bringing to the table is a fresh air, according to what you've already talked with other people that have spoken before me. I'm hoping to get on your July budget funding meeting so that I can see what funds may be available to support this program and to sit down with each and every one of you personally to find out what your district can do to help this program go forward. And that's pretty much it. Do you all have any questions for me?
Thank you. This is just for us to hear from you, but there will be some follow-up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman, that's the last public speaker for the first portion.
Thank you. We are now moving to our consent agenda tab, and these matters were on the screen prior to our meeting and will be on the screen at its conclusion. For the consent agenda, we vote on these items in bank or all at the same time. And Commissioners, I believe there has been just one change to our consent agenda, and that is for us to remove agenda item number 13, and that is with respect to parks. And out of respect for one of our speakers, I'm going to ask that we discuss agenda item 28. And we'll have that heard after consent agenda. Let's see. All right, with that, Commissioners, I move that we approve the consent agenda as it has been revised, and to have staff provide, I don't have my statement here, provide signature on any of the necessary documents for our authorization.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? We'll call the question. Okay, and the vote carries 5-0, and we can briefly address agenda item 28. Is there anyone here to present? Okay. All right. She didn't know.
Good morning, Debbie Blair with the County Attorney's Office again.
Yes.
After consultation with the commissioners and some staff, there are some changes that are proposed for the public speakers, the rules and agendas. The changes affect the agenda, which is an internal section. Section 1.09 as to public participation in the rules. We're also looking at adding definitions for proclamations, certificates of recognition, and resolutions, simply to clarify our internal order of the agenda.
Thank you. There may be some here today, this is all they're seeing, this agenda item page. So if someone wanted to know the changes that are being proposed, how would they access that?
Hi, Chairwoman, Ross Cavett, Communications Director. On the front page of our website, there's an article that summarizes the proposed changes, then has a downloadable link to view the entire set of changes.
Okay, thank you. And if members of the public wanted to weigh in, what would be the procedure for them to do so?
I guess contact you directly, and then
right.
So they would reach out to their individual commissioner. Trying to see, yes, for our speaker that presented, just reach out to your commissioner or to all commissioners, and you can find that online. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the process for amending the rules of your meetings does not require a public hearing. It simply requires notice, which is what is happening today. Okay. And then there will be a vote on this at the next meeting, the end of the month. And it does require a 4/5 vote of the board to make any change to the rules and procedures.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Okay. Okay, are there any other questions or? Okay, Commissioner Burrell, excuse me, we have a commissioner that does have a question for you.
And I know you sent this out to all of us, and we have met with you on different occasions to give our input via email or discussion.
Yes.
But for clarity, can we just go over a few of the things that are changing as far as our policy now?
Do you have specific questions?
I do.
Okay, sure.
Right now, we have a total of an hour, 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting and 30 at the end for 6 speakers of 5 minutes each, front and back of the meeting.
Correct.
Which is a total hour. So with this proposal, if we cut each speaker down to 3 minutes, but keep the same 30 minutes at the front and the back, we're allowing 10 speakers at the front and 10 at the back. So
That's
we're keeping the time frame the same, but we are reducing the 5 minutes to 3 minutes, but that will give us additional speaker slots. 6 and
Right, so
10 instead of 6.
Right, so there, in those occasions where there are additional folks that want to speak that cannot sign up right now because the 12 slots were filled, there would be an opportunity for additional people, 8 more additional people to speak at each meeting.
Okay. But two, I would like to hear more from the public too for their input, even though it's not a public hearing. And it's policy and procedure that we will adopt or not. But I still think there needs to be more time to hear from the public.
I agree.
A couple of other things for clarity. When I first came on the board 14 years ago, nobody running for office, no candidates could even speak during public comment. Then that was changed to they couldn't announce that they were running for office or address their campaign or what have you. But they could still speak on other topics or what's on the agenda as an individual. So how is that changing now?
So what this, under First Amendment law, and this is getting into some law, under First Amendment law, we have, when we open a public forum such as this, a public meeting, it is considered a limited public forum. The topics to be discussed, you can't normally limit them, but in a limited public forum, you can limit those topics. So we ask that discussions as to county, the county government, county governance be discussed, and as far as the agenda items. But we cannot limit the types of speakers that appear before us. So a candidate could appear, however, they cannot discuss their candidacy, their campaigns, their agendas.
Right. So actually, that's not interfering with their freedom of speech.
Correct.
And First Amendment right, which we should. But I'm just saying that it's really not changing from what it was.
Absolutely. There's very minimal changes here that affect the public.
Okay, and then the last thing is the videos. From time to time, we do have people, but I thought we had in place a rule that they had to submit their video just for screening by communications 24 hours before the meeting. Was that not in place already?
No, the problem is we didn't have any rules or procedures concerning this. And as I outlined in a memo to y'all several weeks ago, following another incident at another local county government, we had some internal meetings to discuss how to prevent some bad things from happening in this forum. And the question arose down in the department is how did it come that we do allow these video presentations during public comment? Doing some research, we found that there was no guidance on it. There's nothing in the rules of procedure. We don't have any internal policy documents governing that either. The second issue that we've had with these is that in this era of technology, the types of things we get to show change and are different. And we've received some of them in the minutes just prior to the meeting. And we have to screen those, test those, slot those, and make sure that they're ready to be shown in this meeting. And sometimes we have not been able to do that in time for a public commenter, and then staff is accused of being involved in some sort of conspiracy to censor their speech, which is unfair to them. And then the third issue is that we do not have any policy or procedure in place right now to determine what may be inappropriate content to show. There's absolutely no way we have to screen these kind of presentations for what may be an inappropriate display in this boardroom. And with federal and state legislators warning about AI-generated deepfake videos and issuing rules at the federal level and proposed legislation at the state level, we're just extremely concerned that we're in a position now where we may show something that is a deepfake generated presentation. So with those three concerns, I did send a memo to staff saying that we would not be taking any of these visual presentations until they are at some point addressed.
Okay. Well, is the issue that your staff doesn't have time to go through them prior to? And if we go to 3 minutes to speak and to show a videos, they're going to be limited anyway. But I don't think it's fair to not allow a video at all, but I do think it should be reviewed first by communications. I thought that was already in place.
Well, again, the problem is we can review it to make sure that they're not introducing some sort of virus into the system, but there's no policy in place to determine what may be appropriate or inappropriate, what may be a deepfake video. There's no way to screen that at all. So we've encouraged people, if they have something they want to show, bring copies in that can be distributed to the board. If there's videos or pictures, send links to us that we'll be glad to distribute to the board so they can watch either in real time or later or before the meeting as well. We just think in this era of technology, and I've talked to a lot of other people in the government communications realm, most do not allow visual presentations during public comment portions. I just think that we're in a position now where, thanks to technology, we're put in a bad position.
Okay. Discuss further.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, I will just share that the audiovisual and media presentation restriction, I think both of those, there's opportunity to explore. I'm on the fence on that one because I don't think we necessarily should be fact-checking because that's kind of what the deepfake analysis would entail. But we don't necessarily do that for other forms of speech. But I would be concerned about images, certain types of imagery, things that would not be appropriate for this type of venue. I just don't know. I don't know what that means for this part of the code, but I would be concerned, especially knowing we've had several people put together presentations where they go over a lot, especially during code when we do our public hearings for code reviews. I mean, they tend to be pretty extensive. Where I know they could pass out handouts, but those visuals can be helpful for members in the audience as well for them to follow along. So I am on the fence with that section.
Yeah, I mean, this would only apply to the public comment section. Anything involving zoning and other things that process works well now. We've not had any issues with that. But I've outlined some issues with this. And if we do proceed any further with this, again, I would just emphasize we would need to have a process in place to figure out how we move forward with this, because right now it's put us in an untenable situation.
Thank you.
And if I recall the zoning rules, I mean, you have to have everything submitted in advance.
Right. Zoning, right. And I wasn't necessarily referring to zoning hearings. I'm referring to, like, for public hearings and for public comment, we've had people give presentations where they go into maybe some research they've done about an agenda item that tends to be multi-slided, and that's...
I mean, and they have the right to share their comments as to their research. It's just simply the audiovisual presentation that's at issue here.
And if I may, I wasn't referring to screening it for facts or that it's their opinion. Public comment is someone's individual opinion. It doesn't have to be factual, and a lot of times it is or it isn't. But I'm not referring to that, but for screening for viruses and things like that with our, cybersecurity and stuff like that. But we have, with this ordinance, we do have restrictions in place as far as they can't be derogatory or they can't speak to their candidacy, things like that, that would, maybe we add they can't have any profanity or vulgarity or, I don't know.
But again, there's nothing in place right now to even screen that or determine
Right.
what that is.
But I was referring to not checking what they're presenting, but for viruses and things like that.
Right.
I just need it.
For clarification regarding the video/presentation, because I've seen where there has been presentations by constituents with the compilation of just different information. And then I've also seen where constituents would come in and play a video for someone else to speak on their behalf regarding a particular issue. So I don't know with what we're trying to do here is to prevent that from happening, because I am of the opinion that if you have public comments, then you yourself should make those comments and it should not be shared by a third person. But I'm not opposed to a constituent sharing a video of information that perhaps it may be fragmented information that they're pulling together into one presentation.
Well, and again, when you get to what's proper to show and what's not proper to show, again, that's our concern, is that there's no mechanism in place to review it and to figure out where those boundaries are, and where it's a slippery slope with technology. In our industry, government communicators industry, there's been a lot of warnings that, hey, this is coming. You're going to see AI-generated deepfake videos. It's going to be hard to tell what's real and what's not real, and then now we're suddenly placed in a position to try to figure that out ourselves, and that's not fair to us or even those who are presenting legitimate information through public comment.
Still their opinion. It doesn't have to be factual or not. It's their opinion, and we can't interfere with their freedom of speech.
But if their opinion is being shared by a third party is where I have an issue.
And if somebody presents a...
The interpreters
We've
a
had
little
Commissioner
different.
Gamble's been
Okay.
wanting to speak.
Ross, just listening to this conversation and then remembering the last speaker that we had for code amendments essentially got up and made a statement on behalf of another individual. So while that's not covered under public comment, how would we handle a public hearing where a speaker would get up and essentially read words of another individual for that public hearing? Because we had that happen today. And in listening to this conversation, that just kind of came to my mind. How would this impact potentially public hearings?
Well, the changes that we've just been talking about would not affect public hearings in any way.
Right, that isn't as to public hearing.
Okay, because again, in our public hearing today, we had an individual come up, state his name, and then essentially said he was reading something on behalf of another individual. So to me, that would be in direct violation to what we're proposing for public comment. So the question is if we're not going to allow it in public comment, are we not going to allow it in public hearings? And I guess that's something for the legal group to work out.
Well, no, it's not for us to work out. It's actually for the board to work out.
Okay.
I mean, it's public. The only thing that's been asked to address was public comment. It's perfectly appropriate for public hearing. And I think also to address Ross's concerns in a public hearing, all of those people that are able to attend will be able to speak. And so that he can enforce a 24-hour issue regarding presentations and them being presented if he wants to do that. For public comment, it's different. We have people that just came up and signed up just a couple of moments ago for more public comment spots. He wouldn't be able to review those videos. He's not the arbiter on what gets presented and what doesn't get presented. So,
I think the communication indicates that there needs to be additional opportunity for commissioners to flesh this out, whether that's offline or in a work session. The changes that we make will have an impact not just on this board, but on future boards, and we've been impacted by policy that's been put in place by a previous board, I think dating back to when was the last revision?
Well, there's been a few revisions during time, but these particular rules, I think around 1990, when we don't have this kind of technology. Right. And really what I think what Ross's request is to move into to recognize what the current technology is.
Yeah. So what may be helpful is to see where there's consensus immediately and move those things forward, and the things where there's not adequate consensus, that those are matters that are revisited. Perhaps we can delineate the matters that have been brought up similar to what we did on code amendments, just this section for or against how it's been revised. If there's an immediate consensus, we bring that forward. If there's not, then maybe we just flesh that out at a different time. But when we open up this entire code section, we have the amount of difference of opinion that I'm hearing here. It just lets me know that we have not perhaps spent enough time fleshing this out to get towards that 4/5 level of support.
Well, actually, I have a different opinion on that. And Ross, I thank you because I know there's been emails going back and forth asking about this. But I guess my question is, can we discuss this at the board retreat? Are you on the schedule for the board retreat in the next 3 days? Because again, this is coming fresh, and we're going to be doing this and potentially have it ready for the public to be revised to then be considered on the 26th.
Happy to add it.
We can
Happy to add it to your retreat. It is your retreat.
Yes.
So if the board so wishes to add this to your retreat, we're happy to do that. Right now, we do have a full and robust schedule, but we can adjust accordingly, Commissioner Chairwoman.
Yes, I can share with you that I remember this topic coming up at a prior board retreat and us tabling it there because the extent of the conversation was just so weighty that we said we need to pull this off for additional consideration. So thinking that we're going to be able to find that time to reach consensus at that moment based on that history and based on what I'm hearing today in our conversation yesterday leads me to believe that will not be an adequate amount of time. But again, there may be some things that are very clear to you today that you have consensus on. Maybe the things that we don't have consensus on, we can discuss at the retreat, and if it just ends up what we don't have enough time, then we still table those things because we are not time limited as far as bringing back policy revisions.
Yeah. As the county attorney pointed out, this is something that was originally written in 1991. It really needs a complete overhaul. Yes. So we're happy to push the car back in the garage, slowly close the door, and maybe come back and work on her at some other time.
I do appreciate this is the most robust attempt I've seen for us to make changes, so I appreciate it. Please don't be discouraged for anyone that has brought forward changes. And I'll put forward a disclaimer. I did not bring forward the change to change the number of public speakers, even though some people seemed animated around that. But I do think that we can have a very robust effort to take a look at that entire document. So thank you, Debbie, for presenting. And
okay,
we'll have some conversation at the end of this week and hopefully have some more conversation between then and our next Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you all.
Okay, we are now at, oh, yes, thank you. It's been so much conversation. I need parliamentarian. Yes, but we did not vote, I believe.
There was not anything to vote on regarding the notice.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so then we will now go into our DOT regular tab, and that will be brought by our newly minted Silver Eagle Award, Director of Transportation, Drew Ressler.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, County Manager. DOT has 7 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 final to the contract with Advanced Sports Construction, LLC, a savings to the project in the amount of $56,032.01 for Bill Murdoch Road at Walton High School, project number B2802, authorize corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Yes.
Pam, I know we submitted our statements at the beginning of the stormwater. Do we need to do it again for this meeting, or? You're going to make the note? Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency drainage repairs on Willio Ridge Court in response to a sinkhole and voids. Approved project number B2207 to the 2024 countywide unit price contract with D&H Construction Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $193,950 for said repairs. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Advanced Sports Construction, LLC in an amount not to exceed $375,020 for drainage system repairs on Braidwood Drive, project number B2290. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gambrell.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The vote carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve an assignment agreement with Atlas Technical Consultants, LLC for the 2018 Master Task Order Contract and project number X2769 Task Order number 1 for Old Alabama Road Sidewalk with Long Engineering, LLC. Approve first amendments to each of the assigned contracts for engineering and design services, authorize a corresponding budget and accounting transactions, and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved. Second.
Any additional discussion? Call the question. The vote carries 5-0. Old Alabama is in District 4.
It
even though
is,
says
although it
District
says all
all.
districts, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners approve an intergovernmental agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation for engineering design services and rehabilitation maintenance repairs of Powers Ferry Road Bridge and Interstate North Parkway Bridge over the Chattahoochee River. Cobb County project number AR-15, authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The vote carries 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is to recommend the Board of Commissioners authorize procurement of replacement units. These are changeable message board signs in an amount not to exceed $353,850 for incident management changeable message boards, project number B2522, and further authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Okay. I'll go Commissioner Richardson.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And our final item this morning is to recommend the Board of Commissioners ratify previous action by the county manager authorizing emergency drainage repairs on Oak Ridge Road at Ivy Log Drive in response to a sinkhole. Approve project number B22116 to the 2024 countywide unit price contract with Advanced Road Construction, LLC in an amount not to exceed $141,935 for said repairs. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Sheffield.
So moved. Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Madam County Manager, we have one item for consideration this morning. Our first item, our only item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with All Star Lighting and Electrical Services to supply labor, equipment, and materials to replace athletic field lighting with new LED sports lighting fixtures on all the fields at O.C. Hubert Soccer Complex under the 2022 Park Splash program. This contract includes the replacement of obsolete metal halide fixtures. The new LED fixtures use half the electricity of the existing fixtures and will require considerably less repair and maintenance. We ask the BOC approve the contract with All Star Lighting and Electrical Services under master agreement in an amount not to exceed $348,002 for labor, equipment, and materials to install new LED fixtures at O.C. Hubert Soccer under the 2022 Park Splash program. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairwoman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gambrill.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Michael. I believe we are now at our second public comment.
The first public speaker is Craig Harfoot.
My name's Craig Harfoot, and good morning, good afternoon. It's still morning, 2 minutes, 12 minutes. Anyhow, I got involved in coming here, well, 2005, I jumped in a race as a candidate, against Olins, just when it was a special election. I think we're going to have another one of those real soon, but I came to the meetings, I watched what happened, and I'm sure they were here before that, the Council for Quality Growth that seems to be behind this little stormwater rain tax, they were there, and they didn't even have their lobbyist identify as a lobbyist. I think it was Mike Parrish at the time. Meanwhile, they slowly embed their people in our county government through leadership Cobb. And now we see the tail wagging the dog. DOT, they're embedded people from all the road builders. And even Sam's picking who's in leadership Cobb. And he's you made him like our advocate for, lobbyist for Washington and the State House. Well, anyhow, all these problems continued through him and the subsequent commissioners, and meanwhile, they let them lay off all their detention ponds. And it was raining back in the day, too, and some of those detention ponds, like on Post Oak Tritt, collapsed. Before they even had the subdivision built, they just fell in. So obviously, there's no engineering, there's no accountability. And I think, and it all starts with the zoning. I got pulled out of here one day because I didn't swear in, because I didn't see the zoning attorney swear in. And they were given some BS pass about, they're officers of the court. Then I went to some other meetings like the Ethics Commission. They don't care if you're a lawyer or not. They swear you in. The easiest thing to get somebody on is false swearing. We even knew that in the food stamp program when people had to repay the money that they took illegally. So they swear to pay it. You don't sue them for that. You sue them for false swearing. So your remedy, all these Council for Quality Growth guys and all these developers and all these zoning attorneys that told you, this won't impact anything. If we had a good DA, they'd be going after them. They'd be probably saying it's RICO. But anyhow, they save that for politicians they don't like. And not to say that they're guilty or not, I'm just saying, why isn't it being enforced here? And the first thing comes with, from now on, swear them in. If they tell you something's going to happen and it doesn't happen, you got them. Make them pay. To me, I would be making them pay for all the stuff they did wrong. And when something gets flooded, like in 2001, you should be greenlining all that stuff and saying, you can't build here. It floods. Might flood in 50 years, 100 years, whatever. But if you're going to come back to us and say, hey, pay for it, all the while that engineering on any roads that are done in Cobb County just gets put into a ditch in a stream bed like near my house and other places. And like Mr. Barr said, it just builds up velocity. Now, Sandy Springs had a string of lakes right along Lake Forest Drive, and they drained them all. They had all these storms because you know what happens if you have ponds and you don't drain them when it's not raining. When it floods, they fill up the capacity and then they can breach and cause real damage. So, you know, all ponds are dammed up streams. The beavers are doing it all around Collins Drive now. It's a swampland where the polo fields were. What are you doing about that? I mean, it seems like you need some beaver trappers, but I sent an article to one of you where at one time they relocated a bunch of beavers by parachute back in the 50s because people like to build near too close to water and they're going to get flooded. I mean,
The next public speaker is Vivian Kirby. The next one that's signed up is Susan Strevens. The next one's Kevin Cutcliffe.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Cutcliffe, District 2. I just wanted to bring up a potential change I'd recommend for a code amendment that wasn't brought up here today. Parking minimums are something that is killing counties, and Cobb is no exception. Parking minimums in zoning require a business to have a certain amount of parking depending on what the business is. If you take time looking in these codes, these requirements are not based on any form of science or actual demand, and it ensures that, bringing it back to a prior topic, we have huge impervious surfaces that end up aging and not getting proper upkeep, forcing it on business owners and leaving the county looking undesirable for businesses and builders and citizens alike. The current parking requirements make it so tiny businesses are required to pay more for the parking lot than the building that they're trying to build, leading to no development at all. When big box store businesses it leaves large empty lots that do not get used that could be infilled with potential developments if this code didn't exist. A good example of these that I like to see that's close to me is the area near Studio Movie Grill with that old abandoned farmer's market, which is just acres and acres of just parking lot that isn't being used. To be clear, I'm not against having parking. I encourage that we actually, that each businesses needs to determine how much they need versus the county telling them how much they need. So long story short, I believe that the word required in the code should be changed to recommended. This way, there's proper guidance for businesses wanting to move to Cobb County, but the business can make their own decision on how much they need without government overreach, which is what a lot of people here, are kind of against. It will lead to less zoning board disputes, less miles of stretched out space, and more areas to build community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Elia Bennett.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kyla Bennett. Or good afternoon. Good afternoon to you all. I'm coming to you in desperate need. I currently live in an apartment complex in Cobb County. I'm on the verge of being evicted. I've tried to contact various amounts of organizations about my situation. I've contacted Sweetwater Missions. They weren't able to help me because I do not have any children. I've contacted G-Men. I've been put on a wait list. I've contacted also the Board of Commissioners. I've only received one email back. Thank you, Ms. Kelly Gambrill, for responding back to me. They also gave me a list of churches. Legal aid said that they couldn't help, but they gave me a list of churches, and I've contacted them. Still, no one has reached out back, and I'm still having trouble contacting certain organizations. I've been leaving emails, voicemails, and been constantly calling. Some people say that the county is out of funds and none are available. There are many like myself in situations like this, and times are hard right now. I've been trying to find help and have no luck. I work at the hospital. I do 12-hour shifts, and I'm still not able to make enough to cover all of my expenses. The wait list for these organizations are very long, and they take very long to respond as well. And my court date is on the 21st, my apologies, the 21st of March, which is next week. And I'm really scared about what's going to happen because I haven't received any help at all, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. That's about it.
Ms. Akilo, I can talk to you offline. I responded to you, and Ms. Kimberly Roberts said that she reached out to you. Have you heard from her?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Kimberly Roberts, no, I have not.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Monica Delancey.
Monica Delancey. I reside in the Mapleton-Austell Community, District 4. Wear too many hats to take up too much time, but I'm here as a placeholder for Breon Perkins and Ernest Perkins, who were pretty much was raised on Six Flags Drive, kindergarten all the way through high school. And now my daughter's in college getting her master's degree, and my son, thankfully, 3 more months, we're going to get him through Pepperbrook. Amen to that. And so I want to say also, commend Ms. Akilo for staying the whole time. She got off work this morning. I said, don't forget, you have to be there at a certain time to get signed in for public comment. Although she missed the first part of it, she was willing to stay. I said, if you don't have nowhere to go on March 21st, you need to stay, okay? Unlike some people, they make you go back to their family. They make you go back to their parents. She telling me the hospital she works is in Buckhead. And I said, oh, well, this was the closest location, Cobb County, that was pretty much reasonable. We're not going to say affordable, but reasonable. So therefore, she could still get to work because she does work in the Buckhead area at the hospital. But again, I just want to tell her she was brave for coming up here and speaking up. Also, I want to talk about our senior citizens still not getting housed. I'm still upset with the fact that one apartment complex took the money from Cobb Senior Services to go ahead 3 months later tell this lady, I'm sorry, it wasn't even 3 months. It was really 30 days later to tell this lady that they was not renewing her lease. I wish they would have told her that before she did all that paperwork submitted to Cobb Senior Services. So all she did was just help them get an extra $4,000, and they took part of that money to go pay a lawyer to help her move out of her place. That's just so disrespectful that this is what's being allowed. They should have told them then that they didn't plan on renewing her lease, okay? Because that's pretty much was money that was wasted. This lady is still not housed. So we gotta do better with that. We gotta ask more questions. We're thankful for the assistance, but at the same time, who is it really helping? It's helping lawyers get fees, charging $250 an hour to represent these people in court to say, okay, let's just get them out. So you have the money to still move them out. And also, too, we need to talk about the fact that we have these apartment complexes, I still want to pass this out, that is not repairing broken windows. They're refusing to repair windows, refusing to clean up the pool, refusing to repair these vacant apartments, but yet they're boasting that they have $110 million in assets. So how do you have $110 million in assets and you're refusing to repair things? And then not only that, they have signs waving that they're leasing. And anybody that can see, if you drive around the apartment complex and you see what this picture I just showed you, and you go submit your application and you're saying, okay, you want you're going to smooth there, I'm going to have another conversation with you as well, because I'm confused about what you saw when you rolled around the apartment complex. So yes, I will have a conversation, and yes, of course, that is another grounds for people to say, well, that's why we're not renewing your lease, because you're telling people things. Well, I'm just asking people to speak up. And also the process of these eviction courts, calling people on these dockets. You bring them in, you get people to sign 7 days, they sign their life away, and nobody asks questions. Nobody asks about the appeal process. So yes, I would ask about the appeal process. Yes, I will file my paperwork in the appeal process and pay my money to the court, because I want to know these steps. So therefore, when I go back to the community and say, you know what, you can't file an appeal, you can't pay your money to the court. Yes, you're going to have to be diligent to watch these hearing cases, to watch to find out if your case is being called, because you don't want to miss no court date. You don't want to miss the court date. If you don't want to do all that, then you go pay for a lawyer. But if you have the time to do it, then do it. And I will do it because, again, I stand here for Breon Ernst, because they're going to ask some questions. They're going to understand that you're not going to be railroaded in this process. And again, I want to say that as they're hosting meetings about what's going on at Six Flags Amusement Park, we want to make sure they understand that our children are suffering because they're being forced to live on properties that the landlords are refusing to repair, but yet when they go out for some fun or whatever's going on, if the parents can't go to the park with them because the parents is working 3 jobs to pay the rent, okay? So until you address these housing concerns seriously, this needs to be the conversation. This needs to be conversation all day. Housing at the top of the agenda. Housing would be on the ballot. Housing, because if you don't have a place to live, you can't do anything else.
Ms. Lancey, sorry.
Thank you very much, Monica DeLancey.
Bill, do we have any additional?
That's the last public speaker.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now going to our appointments tab. And Commissioners, I move that we appoint our Director, Michael Register, to the Highland Rivers Health Governing Board.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. And Commissioners, I move that we approve the reappointment of Pete Canonis to the Highland Rivers Health Governing Board.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Call the question. The vote carries 5-0. Thank you. And we are now at our Commissioner's Public Address. Okay, you may begin.
Judy Jones, the Director of Cobb County Water System, will share details about the stormwater services and fees. The proposed change involves shifting from including stormwater charges in water and sewer fees to introducing a separate stormwater fee based on the amount of impervious surface. The new fee structure aims to make that properties producing more stormwater runoff volume contribute proportionately to the impact on the stormwater system. Approval from the Board of Commissioners and amendments to the code are necessary for implementing this change. Join us on March 19th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the West Cobb Senior Center, located at 4915 Dallas Highway in Powder Springs. For more information on stormwater funding, you can also click on the QR code on the display. The Thimble and Thread. The West Cobb Thimble and Thread Quilters proudly displayed their last projects this past Saturday, and they were truly impressive. Mark your calendars for our upcoming gathering on Saturday, March 23rd, and don't forget to bring your creative creations. Beginners are always welcomed. For more information, you can contact the West Cobb Library at 1750 Dennis Kemp Lane Northwest in Kennesaw, or call 770-528-4699. And lastly, Ramadan has begun, and this is one of the most significant observances for the Muslim community each year. Throughout this period, followers of the faith engage in fasting, prayer, and philanthropic activities by giving back to the community and introspection.
Thank you. We'll now go to Commissioner Richardson.
right. So normally, well, we certainly do have a lot of things going on in the office, and normally I would go through that whole list, but for today, to the next slide. From our office, I would just like to say congratulations to now Megan Capetto. And I have on the next slide, I have a blow up so that you can actually see how pretty that picture is. If you go to the next slide. There we go. And you can see them just lovely. They are in Barcelona, just having a wonderful time. She will be returning on March 22nd, but really just wanted to highlight her and her nuptials. So certainly give them a congratulations when you see them when they return. So thank you. And just a reminder, we do have our priorities tour going on. There are several things scheduled for this month, so keep abreast. My calendar is always open. Sign up for our newsletter, and please attend the community huddles. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. I too will be hosting with Judy Jones a Stormwater Proposed Code Amendment Town Hall this Thursday, March 14th at the Tim D. Lee Senior Center. And all are welcome to attend. There are also a couple of others, as Commissioner Gambrell mentioned, one in her district, March 19th, and you'll hear from Commissioner Sheffield on hers as well. There's a lot going on in public safety. There is a forum, Public Safety Forum, the annual Public Safety Forum, to connect with your public safety officials, Cobb Police, Fire, 911, EMA, and a lot of different topics will be discussed, as you can see on the flyer. This Saturday, March 16th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Training Center on the East-West Connector. You're all invited to attend. And also a public safety hiring event. We always need more personnel in public safety, so March 22nd and the 23rd from 8 to 4 at the Training Center at 2435 East-West Connector. So come join the Cobb team. We are still taking input for the Holly Springs Corridor Project. We had the open house at the Art Center last week, and we are still taking feedback forms and comments. So we ask that you visit cobbcounty.org/transportation to give us your input. And our veteran adoption program, Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets, Mr. Canale adopted these 2 cats. He got 2 for 1, free. And this brings our numbers to 200, and this is 252 and 253, Moxie and Victoria. And we thank him for his 20 years of service in the U.S. Army. The Cobb Veterans Memorial Foundation invites you to its first annual military ball and gala, Saturday, April 20th at the Atlanta Marriott Northwest. You can get more information and purchase tickets at cobbveteransmemorial.com. And last but not least, on Sunday, we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day. The luck of the Irish is in town, so enjoy. Everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
So wear your green.
Thank you. We'll now go to Commissioner Sheffield.
Thank you. District 4 news and updates. During March, we celebrate Women's History Month, recognizing the invaluable contributions of women throughout history. From trailblazing leaders to unsung heroes, women have shaped societies, broken barriers, and paved the way for progress in countless fields. This month is a testament to their resilience, strength, and determination. Let us honor their achievements, amplify their voices, and continue striving for equality and empowerment for all women, not just this month, but for every day. And I'd like to also add that your current Board of Commissioners also made history when we became the first all-female board in Cobb County. Happy Women's Day. Congratulations to Library Director Helen Poyer and her team for their 2023 Library of the Year recognition at the Capitol yesterday. The Cobb County Library was recognized for its commitment to serving its community by partnering with numerous organizations within the county and statewide, and for their efforts to expand access to materials and essential services to its community. I am extremely proud of Director Poyer and her team, an award well-deserved. Join the Cobb County Economic Development Department on Thursday, March 14th from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. for their first quarter Coffee and Conversations event at Thumbs Up Diner. Enjoy a morning of coffee, conversation, networking, and learning. The featured speaker will be Tanya Harvey, Director of Community Engagement at Cobb County Business Boot Camp. For more information or to RSVP, contact Brittany Rasmussen at 770-528-1009. Thumbs Up Diner is located at 2615 East-West Connector, Suite 100 in Austell. Join me and Cobb County Water System Director Judy Jones. Boy, Judy, you're really popular. Is she still here? On Wednesday, March 20th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 for the Cobb County Stormwater Code and Funding Meeting at the Freeman Pool Senior Center. Ms. Jones will present information on stormwater services and fees. The water system, as you heard today, is proposing to change charging for stormwater through water and sewer fees to charging a dedicated stormwater fee based on the amount of impervious surface. The proposed fee structure ensures properties that generate more stormwater runoff pay an adjusted share of their impact on the stormwater system. 2 public hearings on the proposed changes are scheduled in March, with the board vote scheduled for March 26th. The Freeman Pool Center is located at 4025 Hurt Road in Smyrna. And finally, the 2024 Georgia Food and Wine Festival begins March 22nd through the 24th at Jim Miller Park. Celebrate the best of Georgia in the South, from its culinary superstars, beverage experts, farmers, live musicians, and more. A lineup of events include Fired Up Friday on March 22nd, which is an all-inclusive evening celebrating everything grilled, smoked, barbecue, and more. And then on Saturday, we'll be celebrating Savor Saturday on March 23rd, which is an unbelievable afternoon of Georgia best chefs offering a variety of delicious bites. And then finally on Sunday is Fun Day, a fantastic finale with live music and a variety of delectable restaurants, farmers, and food trucks. This family-friendly event has something for everyone in the family, including a free kids zone. Visit GeorgiaFoodAndWineFestival.com for more information and to buy tickets. The Jim R. Miller Park is located at 2245 Callaway Road in Marietta. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in today or coming to today's meeting. We have a couple of matters that we'll have additional review in between now and our next meeting. So if you have any interest in our policy or code amendments, I just ask that you weigh in and share your perspective with your fellow commissioners. With that, we have our second Cobb County Small Business Forum coming up at Kennesaw State University. That will be on Thursday, March 21st from 9 a.m. to noon. Encourage those that are interested in procurement opportunities with several of our large businesses to attend. There'll be representation from Brassfield and Gorey, from the Atlanta Housing Authority, from other jurisdictions, our own city of Smyrna, and even the Atlanta Airport. We look forward to seeing you on that day. And again, we just ask that you register in advance, and you can use the QR code that's there, or reach out to Stephanie Taylor with our Cobb County Department of Transportation. With that, for those observing Ramadan, just wish you many blessings, peace, and prosperity to you and your loved ones during this time. With that, we're adjourned.